Hey, what's up, everyone? We're live. It's BRAP, and we have Falky with us tonight. Falky,
Hey,
welcome.
how's it going?
It is going, but before we get into how Falky's doing and the other side of planet Earth, we're going to officially kick off the show right now. All right, everyone. Welcome to another BRAP. Falky, how is? Let me guess. We made it to Saturday because you're still here, which means humanity survived another day.
Yeah, for lack of
How
a
are you,
better
sir?
word. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm well. Big week just ended. It's just after lunchtime on Saturday. Down here on the southern side of the planet, it's actually quite a nice day. Mild temperature, a bit of a breeze, sunshine, a few clouds getting about. We're getting warm down here, as the northern hemisphere is getting really cold. So thanks for sending all the warm weather down this way. But yeah, no, it's well. It's well. Positivity. We're less than 2 weeks away from Christmas, and things are starting to get chaotic. But we made it to Saturday. That's the important thing.
Yeah, you're right. We made it to another Saturday. We made it through another week. And that's always good. If I don't hear from you, Falky, I grow concerned because you are a time traveler of sorts, you know.
Slightly ahead of the curve.
Exactly. Very, very ahead of the curve, I might add, especially on Twitter.
Yeah, well,
No.
depending on who you listen to. Apparently, I'm now getting called a liar and for fraud and all that in the Discord servers as well somewhere. So
Why are
my
you
reach is expanding.
who's calling you a fraud? I don't understand. Like
Ah,
why is this
look,
happening?
there's a comment left on my little rundown about the Katakawa selling the publishing analysis
Mm,
piece that I put up from request from a few people, and thought I'll cover off on the query and put a bit of an explanation there. And
gotcha. Okay.
a now deleted tweet, because as soon as I challenged them on them, they deleted it. They said, "Oh, he's a liar and he's a fraud, and he's in the Discord. There are Discord servers that are talking about how much he doesn't, he's just making this stuff up." And so I said, "Well, would you care to share who's saying that?" And then, bang, tweet's deleted and person's run off. So, I mean, it's there in black and white, and I put the links in there. You go and read it for yourself. So.
Wow. Well, such
The
as
wild,
yeah.
the wild, wild west of Twitter, or X. Sorry,
X,
X.
yes, X. You got to remember it's X. X is going to give it to you apparently. Anyhow, but great to have you back, Falky. Nate is on his way. Nate said he's driving. And then
That's
we
three in a row now that Nate's supposed to be on when I've scheduled to be on with him, and he's no showed at the start. I'm starting
I
to think
mean,
it's
look,
me. I'm
there
starting to
you
get concerned.
go. Well, maybe it is you. I don't know. Maybe Falky. I don't know.
Maybe.
On that note,
Anyway,
yeah, but no, great to have you, Falky. Great to have you. Is you drinking coffee, huh?
yes, I am.
All
It's
right.
not quite 5 o'clock here yet, but yes, no, still drinking the
Oh
caffeine.
no, what time is it there right now?
20 past 1 in the afternoon.
Ah, okay. Jeez, you guys really are ahead of us. We're wrapping up our Friday evening here, and you're halfway through your Saturday.
Yeah,
So
I'd much rather it be back to Friday evening, to be honest, but
yeah,
you
I
know,
hear you. Yeah. Well, great to have you back here, Falky, and everyone. We're on camera. I figure it's the holidays. We'll all be on camera. It's Priscilla's fault. She wanted to go to Beat Buy, Best Buy, to get a new power supply. That's funny. Hey, you don't want to say no when she asks for a new power supply. You just go with it, innate. So, but anyhow, also also with us this evening we have Game Logic. Logic, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Good, man. How are you guys?
Doing well. I love how you tap your mic there. I guess are they inputs there on top that we can't see?
The mute button is on the top of the mic here.
Ah, I see. Okay, it's kind of cool. All right. Yeah, but no, great to have you on as well, Logic. And big shout out to everyone in the live chat, by the way. Thank you for coming by and hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. Is it a conspiracy? I have no idea what you're talking about. One nominal. I don't know what he means by that. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Game Awards show last night, Falky. I don't know if you caught the awards show live. I don't think so because of the time. Well, maybe.
Yeah, no,
You would have caught it because it was in the afternoon, right? For you.
Yes, and the scheduled start time of 11 a.m. and then we waited half an hour to get the pre-show that started at 11:30 a.m. for us with Sydney, and I actually enjoyed the pre-show. There was some really good games and really good looking stuff in there, and I've always thought Sydney's a very good presenter. Gets stuck with some horribly written scripting sometimes, but Sydney Goodman's a very, very well-rounded presenter. Speaks very well, and introduced some really interesting games in the pre-show. And then Jeff came out, and we got cracking in the main show from 12 o'clock our time, and it was somewhere around 3 p.m. when it finished. And yeah, I caught most of it while I was in and out, playing in the background while I was in and out of Teams meetings and getting bits and pieces ready for an audit next week. And it sort of ebbed and flowed. It's one of the better ones in recent years. I'm not. It seems to be that the awards are now an afterthought, the way that they rifle through some of them. And he'll just, Jeff will be on camera and go, "Yep, this award. Here's the nominees. Here's the winner. Here's the next one, next one, next one." And the main 5 or 6 gets some attention, but yeah, I thought it was one of the better ones in recent years. But yeah, 4 hours, 3.5 hours. It's a bit of a drag, and challenging to really keep attention on it. If I'm being honest, I'd prefer the shorter version, but plenty of games. And there's some games in that thing. Feed's been nothing but because you get to get on YouTube and you see the 4K trailers and all the good stuff, and I follow a couple of very limited. Everyone knows my position on gaming media, but I'm very limited in which ones I follow and trust. And anyone on Twitter, I'll give them a shameless free plug. Gematsu, Gematsu. Follow their Twitter. They hit everything that's been released in the Game Awards and everything that's around it. They are. If you want to know what's coming, they're over it. And yeah, they put out a tweet that said our auto tweet thing has actually failed because we had so much lined up to try and push through. And yeah, the YouTube feed has just been crazy with game announcements over the last couple of days. Yeah, so the award show aside, then we got some interesting stuff and some games there. I'm really excited. We're going to get really soon.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Falky. I mean, I thought this award show was actually probably like one of the better ones that I've seen. I'd have to go back and pull the thread on previous award shows and what were revealed at those shows, but I thought that this award show was really solid. I thought it was a great celebration of the gaming industry. And there was some big announcement. I mean, I said this to Logic earlier today. I feel like the award show release has kind of become like the new E3 of sorts, where you have these big announcements that are coming. That where developers are showing up announcing new projects, new games that are releasing next year. 2025 looks like a stacked year. So,
oh, absolutely,
yeah. But yeah, so we'll get into the award show in just a bit here as well. Falky, there's some new news with Sony's intent to purchase. I forget the name of the parent company, FromSoftware. Is it Kadokawa?
Kadokawa.
Thank you.
Unless something happened overnight, which I haven't seen, there's not really any new news. It's just they're reporting old news in a new way. And I haven't seen anything pop up overnight. So there was an article from Yahoo Finance that triggered off a fresh round of speculative conversation because a representative, people can't see it, but representative, in air quotes, of Sony said, yeah, we sent a letter, but we can't talk about it. Please stop asking questions, which is only confirming what Kadokawa put out in their press release 3 weeks ago now, saying, hey, we received there's conversations about Sony sending us a letter. Yes, we received a letter about an inquiry to purchase share or intent to purchase shares, but we can't talk any more about it because we haven't made a decision. There's nothing new here. Speaking with some other, say, friends and acquaintances in the know behind the scenes on what we can see and hear is going on. Usually where there's smoke, there's fire, but it's a really interesting kind of smoke for this one. What I'm seeing and hearing in the conversations that are occurring, they're not even talking about a dollar figure. It's in a very odd part of discussion. It's kind of like, how would you say, I'm taking you out to lunch, order whatever you like, it's on me, we're just going to talk. And we'll see how we feel at the end of lunch, like a first date sort of thing. It's probably the most basic but best analogy I can give for simplistic terms. In a more financial, technical talk, they're out there hammering out what would a deal look like if we wanted to try and make one, and how would we go about it? Because as I pointed out in my Twitter feed this week, analysis, Katakawa is primarily built on publishing and IP creation, which is around books and manga and comics and all that. That's, over 50%. It's nearly 2/3 of their business is in that. Anime's maybe less than 20%, and gaming is less than 10%. So, if Sony was interested, Sony's effectively buying into a physical and e-book publishing company. And if they hacked it up to pull it apart, they would pay a massive premium for something that's not really what they want. Now, it may be the letter of intent is to show support in this argument Katakawa is having with this foreign investment Kakao, Kakao, South Korean company that owns the majority of their shares, that bought out the family that owned the majority shares in Katakawa. They own like 15%, and if they're trying to take more than Sony and Tencent, and there's another issue there with Tencent off to the side with the Ubisoft issues, as to whether they maintain their investment in FromSoft and in Katakawa, and how this three-way partnership with Sony, Katakawa, and I can't remember the third company would work, because that needs to be factored into consideration. And then I say Tencent's currently got an opportunity to really push the point with the Ubisoft arrangement. If Ubisoft goes private and Eves and co basically go, well, you can have 51% of the investment, but we want the voting rights to maintain it, 51% of the voting rights, and that's what it turns out to be. Tencent could effectively get majority financial investment in Ubisoft. And what does that mean for their stake in Katakawa? And, if Tencent's distracted elsewhere, Sony would still have to buy out Tencent if they're going to do the full acquisition. And then there's layers and layers, and it's quite complex. So what they'll be, if they're talking about this in any seriousness, Sony's done what they do every 18 months, basically, which is, hey, anyone up for acquisition? Send some letters out, fire off some queries. Anybody want to give it up? And the response will be, okay, thank you. We've got your letter. We will sit down. We will consider it. We'll look at whether there's any value in it for our shareholders, remembering that there's common shareholders across institutional shareholders across Sony and Katakawa. We'll sit down. We'll consider this. And if Tencent or anyone else says, no, we don't want it, then deal cooked. That's it. Because you can't forcibly buy them out if one of your major shareholders are saying they don't want to. There's ways and means around that, but it's all costly and it's all time consuming. And it may be that Kakao's happy to maintain their investment, but Katakawa want a management change, and they think that by selling will get a management change. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that'll happen. And then if you've got a multitude of other bits and pieces to consider, Sony buying it and hacking it to pieces has got to get past the regulators. So they're a long way from working out a payment arrangement if they're going to buy them, and they're still working out whether it's even feasible. But, and this is a contentious point that I've put out there, Sony can't get a look at Katakawa's books beyond what's published officially, without signing an MOU or signing some agreement to get in and have a look at it to do the due diligence. Now, the second that they sign that, they're on the clock to tell the public, to tell the market, as I keep saying. Until Sony or Kadokawa tell the market, there's nothing's happening effectively. It's nothing to see here. They're just two people talking over in the corner at the table. As soon as they've signed that and they get a look at the books, then they've got to work out whether they want to continue with it or not. But we will know for sure that something is afoot when they put that MOU together.
That's some great insight there, Falky. So once the bean counters start getting a look at the books, then they got to make that public information then.
Yeah, absolutely. They got to tell the market, and they've got a restricted amount of time to do it. The wording in the regulatory stuff for the Tokyo Stock Exchange is they need to tell them as soon as possible, which is basically what their rule of thumb has been is if you sign it after 2 p.m., the market closes at 4, do it the next day. If you sign it before 2 p.m., get in front of a camera or put a press release out and do it. Usually 24, 48 hours is their operating window, though they don't state it, but they have penalized companies who've waited longer than 48 hours. So, yeah. And it's not, and that applies to Sony. Sony's domiciled in Japan, listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. That rule applies to Sony. If Sony, like with Bungie, that wasn't a Japanese anything, but Sony still had to make the announcement because it affected them and the rules that they operate under.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with anything else they do. As soon as they sign a deal, and you have to sign the NDAs, which will be non-disclosure agreements, which are part of the memorandum of understanding arrangements to get in and look at the books. So as soon as the MOU is signed, that's it. You've got to announce it. Now, whether the deal actually happens or not doesn't matter.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I appreciate that insight, Falky. I want to bring this actually back up here. Cursa said, "Hey, BRAP, Logic, and David, always glad for your informed takes on things." Appreciate that, Curse King. You've come to the right place if you're looking for more informed, mature dialogue around all things video games. But Logic, any other thoughts on the whole I can't pronounce it. Kadokawa and Sony thing. Any thoughts?
Nope.
All right. So we'll go ahead and move on. But thank you, Falky. All right. I do want to move on to the Game Award show. So I've been watching the award show since 2014, Logic? I think it was 2014 was the first one, if I'm not mistaken.
I would stand, BRAP, given that it was the 10-year anniversary.
Okay, thank you. Logic's like, come on, BRAP. Look, man, I'm still look. Let me so Falky's like, you're still dealing with COVID. So let me just a little background here. As everyone knows, 2 weeks ago I tested positive for COVID. I went on Paxlovid, feeling better, and then next thing you know, I have a COVID rebound, which apparently is a thing with Paxlovid. Happens to about a quarter of people who take Paxlovid, and so that's what happened. I rebounded, but yeah, I mean, I'm fine. I mean, it feels like a very, very mild cold, but feeling better. But anyhow, but so I haven't been keeping up with news as much as I typically do. Go ahead, Logic.
I do want to ask a question in the chat. So, I mean, I felt the TGA was a good show as well.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people saying, this was the best show. Brian East, this was the best show for me in recent memory. Lots of other people said it was, Enate said it was lit. I'd like to understand like what your criteria for that is. Because I think there were a few different aspects of the show that were better this year. There were some that when I quantify them, I don't know that I would like leap to lengths of hyperbole on how good of a show it was. So I'm very curious what people are kind of like, what square people are standing on, what they're staking the notion that this was a great show or a great show, in comparison to the past.
Yeah, so I could say, at least for me, Logic, it was a great show. It was, I think I think in the live chat you said it was one of the more better shows in recent memory. I would agree with that, and this is this is where, and I'm just going back to my history of watching the Game Awards 10 years. It's come a long way. Clearly it has. I mean, I remember the first Game Award show in 2014, and it was like, you could tell, I mean, the production values weren't where they are today. It was just getting started. It didn't have a lot of viewership per se. There were games there, but they weren't the level of game reveals that we see today. Like they're definitely, this has become the show now where game developers come to show off, reveal what they're working on. It's, at least in my opinion, I think it's kind of replaced E3 a little bit because we have these big announcements now. There's a very big industry presence there. So for me, Logic, at least like my measuring stick is really because the awards have always been part of, it's an award show. The awards have always been there, right? To me, what's gotten better, to me, what really stands out, especially this year, are the games that were announced. That to me is that is the thing that really stands out to me, and why I say it's one of the better award shows in recent memories, because of the big announcements. There were a lot of games that were announced that I was surprised. I was like, oh my, almost like that E3 moment of holy shit, like this is coming out now, like Onimusha. I mean,
So what I want you to do, BRAP, is I want you to come up quickly with some type of scoring system.
I'm not doing that.
Count, or at least count, or at least count it. Because here's my contention, BRAP. I love you, but you are one to do something like see an Elden Ring announcement and go, "Oh my god, it was the greatest show ever."
Yes, but there's nothing wrong with that, Logic. We always talk about the show. Different consumers, right? Different wants,
yes, but
different need.
Yeah, but
different perspectives.
But my levity, right? My point of levity is, okay, if like one game was shown that was like an individual gamer's like the greatest thing ever, right? But the relative number of total game announcements was the same, or average in comparison to the last year's show, or or it was maybe even less, right? That's what I want to kind of dig at, because
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I've caught myself before, right? And this is why on Enough to Keep Going, we were very big about quantification and tallying up numbers, right? Because we challenge ourselves, right? When we say, oh my god, it's and I'm like, okay, really? Like, let's compare the numbers, right? Because being a little out over your skis here. So that's what I love. Some of the answers I'm seeing in the chat. The level of self-awareness that Jeff Keighley showed, I felt the same. I felt like his overall decor was, I don't necessarily feel like it's been bad in past years, but I felt like there was an additional level of kind of transparency this year. Good, not letting people hog the stage. I think that was true. Giving the devs time to talk, I think, was a big deal. I mean, I don't know if people noticed, but like the where the elasticity in the system was, where you got more, but some was taken away, was in the. So they've always done these. So I don't think this year they did the side stage announcements. So in past years, what they did was when they didn't call devs up on stage, they would flash to the side stage, and Sydney would still do, like, announce all the nominees, and and there would still be time taken up. And this year, it looked like, as far as I can tell, Keighley did that himself, and the pace was a little faster. So I think you lost some of the smaller awards and the side stage stuff.
Oh man, hold on here, Hamp.
Yeah.
Gregor Von Doom, come on, man. Come on. Like Todd Howard, I saw the jokes today about his height, but come on, man.
Yeah, he that dude kept looking like the Toll House elf every time he came up on stage. I think Ella Purnell actually even looked tall. I know she was wearing heels, but I think she even looked taller than he did.
Yeah, well, so Logic, I'm sorry, go ahead before I answer your question, but
no, that's it. I think the reason it was a better show this year was because of a lot of the nuances of the show conduct around the periphery that I think most gamers won't talk about. And that's kind of one of the points I wanted to dig at. the thing that to me made the show better this year was the things that you probably typically wouldn't directly notice unless you were really dissecting the show. But yeah, I thought overall it was a great show.
Yeah, for me it is again the for me I'm with the award show. I've always looked forward to the game announcements, right? And obviously I there's some interest in who the award winners are, but I think just the it's not like if it was just like the Elden Ring game that was announced, the new standalone Elden Ring game that was announced, I would, and that was it. There was maybe smaller titles mixed in. Falky's raising it. Hold on, Falky. I would probably have a difference of opinion, but for me, and this goes back to my missing of E3, right? This nostalgia of E3 and the big announcements that we would get at E3. For me, it's this show. For me, provided some of those big announcements, some of those surprises of games that I had no idea were coming back, were in the works. Onimusha was a big one. The Ninja Gaiden title, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. I was like, where did that come from?
Was that announced? Was that announced during the main show or the pre-show?
God, I think it was.
I want to say
I don't remember now. I think it was the pre-show. Yeah,
that was one of the big ones I got excited about in the pre-show because I figured out what it was at Anime Startup, and then when it's flicked to the gameplay footage, it was 2D side scroller, or say, what do you call it now? It's like it's 2D side scroller, but it's got that depth that goes with it. 2.5D or whatever it is, HD to whatever.
Yeah, 2.5. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, wow, this is a very different take on, but characters, the gameplay looks amazing, the character animations look like fun, and everyone knows how much I love indie games, but from an indie style game coming from a major publisher, I'm like, you can see Capcom and Bandai Namco all through the show, and sorry to jump in here at this point, but Bandai Namco, Capcom, and crap, I can't remember who the third one was. There were 3 publishers, and they all starting to get into that zone of, hey, we can make these things cheaper with IP that we already have, and let's take something a little bit different. And people are just
it's a great point
over it. It's so fun to see. It's awesome. It's brilliant.
And Falky, to your point, that feeling, that reaction that you just described, that was my reaction feeling of seeing God. Again, I grew up playing the first Gaiden, and I remember, if anyone remembers the first Ninja Gaiden on the NES, that cinematic opening cutscene, that was fairly new. That cinematic approach to gaming was fairly new, and I'll never forget. It was a thing to marvel at the time in the Nintendo Entertainment System during those days. But so for me, what really stood out for me for this show, or with this particular show, was that it was all the big game announcements and the surprise game announcements, games that I wasn't that I had no idea or no expectation of those games releasing. Again, like I go back to Onimusha. I misspelled Intergalactic. Okay, well, thank you for that. I'll have to go back and correct that. PC Peasant BRAP. Okay, you don't have to be a dick about it. Huh?
PC Peasant?
Yeah, he's
PC elitist. Can't they even get that right?
Yeah, right.
I couldn't just
go ahead.
Complete tangent here. The number of games that were announced in the pre-show and the whole show that were across all platforms is, from memory, unprecedented. There was 5 games that I can remember seeing that were to one platform only. 4 of those 5 were PC only, and that's just from memory. I stand to be corrected because I haven't got the listing in front of me. 4 of the 5 that I recall that were single platform were PC only, and they're all action RPGs. Most of the games that were announced were multi-platform, and there were very few real big AAA games that weren't coming to all platforms.
Well, you get metrics like that when Xbox publishes their AAA games to PlayStation day and date.
Yeah, absolutely. You didn't see any going the other way in the announcements. However, that aside, I don't know if I could become a PC only gamer. I struggle enough as it is with the amount of games that are available on a PlayStation, and then looking at what's available on a Nintendo Switch for my style of games that I love playing.
Just come to the dark side, Falky. Just come to PC.
I wouldn't even know which game to start with.
There's plenty. I mean, there's.
And the crossover between the mobile games that are available on PC and console now, and how they are working, it's the where you access the game is almost irrelevant if you enjoy gaming, which is a good thing to a degree. But yeah, it'd be difficult to label someone as a peasant because they choose to access their games via PC. But there's so many of them. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that there were so many. To your point about the cross-platform releases or announcements, I did see Outer Worlds 2 being announced, and not just being announced. Logic, you and I talked about this earlier today. I mean, let's give Obsidian their flowers, right? I mean, you said it earlier today. I'll let you share with the audience what you said about the acquisition of Obsidian, but I mean, they're cooking.
Yeah, I mean, what I've long contended is that the best acquisition Xbox has made was the pickup of Obsidian. I'll just read what I posted on Blue Sky today. So I said, I've long claimed that to me, Obsidian has been the best Xbox acquisition. They maintain Grounded as a live service game, having deployed it to multiple platforms. They're putting out both Avowed and the Outer Worlds 2 in 2025. Their production pipeline output has been very reliable. What I didn't post on Blue Sky, but I'll add here, is their production pipeline output has been very reliable, particularly when you consider that they are part of an organization that has had a pretty horrific time in terms of production pipeline consistency, in terms of pace of output, and in terms of quality. And so if the Outer World 2 is day and date on PlayStation 5, that'll be yet another feather in Obsidian's cap. I'm impressed, and while every one of their games of late has not been in my wheelhouse, this announcement has me on my feet. And they're talking about the announcement of the Outer Worlds 2. Much respect to the studio. They've been carrying water for the Xbox brand, and I love to see it. I mean, you talk about this generation, they have, in terms of the volume of their output, and that's just in numbers of title. Obviously, Spider-Man is a much bigger game, bigger budget game, but they're essentially the Insomniac of the Xbox portfolio. And between them and Bethesda, I mean, that's what has been the bulk of the Xbox output this generation. So, and Obsidian, like I said, even though they don't do things that are personally in my wheelhouse, it's been a long time since they've put out a miss.
It's crazy to consider that the Bethesda purchase is what has underpinned, when you really think about what has underpinned Xbox's performance, and then you look at what's happened since, without getting into this in the deepest sense, the Bethesda studios are kicking massive goals for Xbox as a whole. But when you get into the nuts and bolts of the financial performance as much as you can with what's publicly available, and then a little bit more scrutiny if you follow your nose in the right places. If Xbox hadn't have picked up Bethesda and just got Activision, my word, would they be in a world of pain right now? Like, it would be unfathomable to think how much pain they would be in right now. So yeah, hats off to them for getting lucky and picking that one up. But and what was considered quite a sizable price tag, but with what they showed at the Game Awards coming out of the Bethesda studios, and the bit of fun they had with announcing that the Outer Worlds 2 in that announcement trailer, which I appreciate. I really appreciated that. They're cooking pretty good. They're out the back in the apron with the tongs, and the smoke are going really well.
And I just want to point out, and for the purposes of being cheeky, I will continue to say that the Outer Worlds 2 is day and date on PlayStation 5. But let it be known, because we are very hyper specific about accuracy of this game, and not running with rumors, not, as I often say, taking the fish hook and running the line. 12 nautical miles out to sea into international waters. It is not, as far as I know, as far as I've seen and read, it has not been stated with confirmation by the publisher that the Outer Worlds 2 is day and date. I'm just making that assumption. But of course, there's always the caveat that could come out that it's like a 3-month, timed exclusive, like Indiana Jones is, or whatever the length is for the Indiana Jones timed exclusivity.
Yeah.
Now, wasn't the Outer Worlds 2 originally announced, or
it was very much an exclusive? If you Google
Yes.
for it, the hits that
Yeah.
come back right at the top is all this, pageantry about how it's an exclusive game and it's not going to PlayStation 5. And then you get about 4 things down into your Google return and it'll say, oh, not anymore.
Yeah, it was. I remember seeing it at the bottom when it flashed on the screen. It had PS5.
Well, that's
on it.
because you're below the equator, Falky. We get our search returns in reverse.
That's
I
funny.
remember vividly watching it and going, "Oh yeah, that's interesting." And I went, "Oh, that's going to raise some eyebrows and set some people off."
Well, I mean, but Falky, no one should be surprised, though. I mean, this is, if you've been reading the tea leaves correctly, then this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. I mean, this is the direction that they're heading. And to your point, Logic, I mean, there's been no confirmation. Day and date
Yep.
could very well be a situation similar to, Indiana Jones, where you get Indiana Jones, the 3-month exclusive.
Yep.
What we do know is
Looking at
that it's coming 2025, right?
Yep.
But when in 2025? That's the question, at least for PlayStation.
Well, I mean,
Yep.
As a just almost unquestionable. I mean, so you have 2 major things. Number one, you have Avowed that got pushed back into Q1 2025, ostensibly because there was so much in the portfolio that they didn't want to overwhelm their consumer base. It's fine. So right there, you think, is Avowed is February, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure Avowed.
Yeah, Avowed is February. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't feel.
I don't think it's getting delayed.
I mean, we've seen other games that we've watched this portfolio. We can smell now when a game is coming in hot and is likely to get pushed. I don't smell Avowed, right? I don't smell, burning rubber, burning plastic coming out of the direction of Avowed. So that'll hit in February. They probably don't want to put out the Outer Worlds 2 for at least 6 months. That gets you into August. But then once you get into the back half of 2025, you're waiting to see if Rockstar is going to blink. And if they are going to put GTA 6 out, and then that everybody then is holding their breath, right, for holiday season until that date gets announced. But you could, but part of that is also them, lots of people are also going to be standing on the trigger for an announcement that Rockstar is going to delay GTA 6, which will then open up that back half of 2025.
I suspect March, if Rockstar pulls the trigger on the delay. And it's 50-50 at the moment. I know they keep saying in their official releases that it's 2025, but it is so late into 2025 now that you might as well jump it into 2026. And it'll also depend on, because Rockstar, as big as it is, they're looking over their shoulder at when the next Switch is coming out, because they don't want to run up against that. Because I know it sounds crazy, but a lot of people it'll be one or the other. And they don't want to pick a window where they're competing against a platform. But I found that the articles where they're talking about it, the blah 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 blah. Where is it? The trailer confirms from the TGAs that we're getting 2 Obsidian games in 2025, but the studio is once again releasing games on PS5. Avowed is set to come to Xbox and PC. Skipping the Sony platform now with the Outer Worlds 2 making the leap, then it's possible Avowed will too. No confirmation whether it will go on the new Nintendo Switch replacement console. Previously, Pentiment skipped PS5 at launch. Geez, Avowed's done some games. Obsidian, has done some games. Pentiment skipped the PS5 at launch before coming to the platform later on, so it seems Obsidian is part of Xbox's efforts to get some more games on PS5. Now, with the Avowed one, if it's going into Game Pass and it's not likely to move the needle on subscriptions there, then the plan would have to be to release it on PS5 or at least get a version out on other consoles. They've got to make money with these things somehow.
Yeah, no, I hear you, Falky. And let me ask you a question, Falky.
Yeah.
With regards to GTA 6, right? And you mentioned Nintendo Switch. You said that you're saying that GTA 6 that Rockstar doesn't want to launch within the window of the Nintendo Switch, right?
Yeah, they'll be
But
looking over their shoulders, not wanting to be in like the immediacy of that.
but do you really think that would matter though? I mean, it's GTA 6.
Yeah, hell yeah. It would
That's-
matter a big lot, especially if they're going GTA 6 is PS5 exclusive for a timed piece, because it's still not confirmed that it's PC day one either.
It's not going to be
Uh,
PC day one. That's I don't think that's been confirmed if I'm not
it,
mistaken.
it has been confirmed that there will
Yeah,
not be a
yeah.
PC.
Well,
Yeah.
launch.
that'll then depend on the delay. We're starting to see studios delay games so that the PC build can get caught up, and that's why Assassin's Creed Shadows is the main reason why it got delayed. They're
Mhm.
delaying it to launch day and date on PC as well as console, because they just need to do it. But yeah, sorry, Rockstar will be. It won't be the determining factor if they delay this thing, but they'll certainly be looking over their shoulder at if we launch it right before the holidays and the new Switch is out and they've got a massive push into the holidays. People aren't going to be able to afford everything. What are they going to do? And the amount of drive and desire that's there across gamers for the next Switch version, depending on what's launching with that, is you can see the demand is hugely there. You would not want to be in the same month, I'll just put it that way. You'd want to be outside that window. But likewise, when GTA 6 launches, if it's in a clear space and there's nothing else major around it, and they get it in the right window to launch and everyone just goes gangbusters for it, they'll pile into it really quickly and then play it for 4 to 6 weeks, whatever it is. So as long as you're outside that window, you're more than 6 weeks past launch date with GTA 6, you should be fine. Because the tails on these things, they go a lot longer, but the initial bump for these sort of games is much higher. So if they push it out in the February March 2026, then you would be, that'd probably be the more opportunistic time to do it, because then you can at least get a push on running into Christmas for the PS5 Pros and all the rest of it if it's staying console exclusive with PlayStation. Otherwise you would push it, launch it day and date on PC, make sure you're staying away from the Switch 2 or whatever it is. I expect it would be. I mean, Switch 2 should be a March to June job next year anyway. And then, yeah, everything else can just fall in around that. So that's how I see it. So
I agree with Falky, right? I mean, lots of people are going to have conversations around this as if it's binary. Well, GTA 6 beats Switch 2, so therefore it's not a concern. That these things aren't binary. That's not how they work. There's a very large part of this calculation that's going to be around opportunity cost and opportunity cost for consumers. And I completely agree. You're going to pack two giants that are going to suck a lot of the air out of the room in terms of consumer disposable cash, and you don't want to do that in a compressed time frame because you are going to lose customers. You're not going to lose huge customers. You're not necessarily going to not make money, but in terms of maximizing your ability to hit a KPI and exceed it, yeah, you don't want to launch in the exact same window as the Nintendo Switch. And I completely agree. Like it's not that you can't launch like in the same quarter. I mean, you can. But yeah, I mean, 6 weeks of maneuvering room is not a bad idea because people are going to make choices, and GTA 6 is going to be around for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, I'm gonna walk.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Falky. No, go ahead, man.
Look at the start of 2024, and just look at what launched every month. You had January, you had a launch, February, March, April, May, June. And in a couple of those months, you had multiple big titles launched. July and August, pretty quiet. September, big launch. October, big launch. November, big launches. Across all platforms, across all genres, and all the rest of it. December's been relatively quiet so far. I say that, and in the back of my mind, something's gnawing me, telling me something large launched in the first week of December. But anyway, and everyone's complaining nonstop about too many games, and then nothing launches for a week, and then there's no games, and it's flipping between 2024 is one of the best on history, and 2024 has got the driest gaming in history. And depending on who you're talking to and the position of the moon and the sun and where, Venus is positioned within Taurus' star sign, all the rest of that shit, as to what option you get.
Yeah.
However, there are games that have sold millions of copies at launch, and there are games that are up to millions of copies sold, and it took them 12 months to get there. Whether they've performed to meet expectations or not, there's different ways of doing it. And the last thing you want to do is expect 10 million copies in 2 weeks and then get to the end 6 months later and say, oh, it's a failure because we only sold 11 million copies in 6 months. X Defiant's a great example of how things can be going really well and still get the plug pulled on them. 10 million people were playing that in the first 2 weeks, and there were 300,000 daily average playing it when they said, well, we're pulling the plug on it. It's horses for courses, but you just don't want to be trying to pull in 2 different directions. And the last thing PlayStation and Nintendo want to do is have an argument with each other around the timing of something.
Yeah, and again, it's not a matter so much of it'll be a failure. It's a matter of, will it be as big of a success as it could possibly be? But Hoodrich is making a comment about, so you're going to buy a Switch 2 but not have money for a game. Yes, because nobody goes out and just buys the Switch. They go out and they buy a Switch 2, they buy extra Joy-Cons, they buy 3 to 5 games, they buy a case, they buy a screen protector, they buy tons of accessories.
Storage.
Yes.
Micro SDs. I mean, I mean, that's...
It's to piggyback on that. It's not the fact that somebody's going out and buying them. It's who's going out and buying them. The majority of people who play games, and I say the majority, people on Twitter that sit in their basements, they're a small subset of this. I keep talking about this massive pie of gaming. The people that have got the disposable income to go out and buy GTA 6 are the same people who have got the same disposable income that they're looking at their kids going, am I going to buy the game for me, or am I buying something for the family to enjoy? And that's the crux of the argument that I put forth is, you don't want to have them butting heads because the family 99% of the time will win. And as Logic just said, it's not just the Switch, it's the components, the extra Joy-Cons, the extra memory sticks, 4 or 5 games to go with it. If there's backwards compatibility, that's great, but I just about put Lefty on the chopping block for it to say that it'll be via some kind of paid access. It won't be you can just drop the card straight in like they were hoping to do. So if you've got to pay for the online piece as well, if a new Pokemon game comes out with it, shut the doors, that's it. Like if Pokemon ZA launches it goes as a launch game for the Switch 2, just that's it. You will not see anything for a month, 2 months. Don't bother trying.
Yeah.
Just clear the deck, let them have their lane. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's this smart business strategy to just go, when they announce it, we stay flexible and we just clear the path, let the freight train go through. When the boom gates come up and she's gone past, then we continue. So it'll be the same when the Naughty Dog game launches. As you get closer and closer to that thing, no one's going to come near that when they start the 6-week run into launch. The marketing campaign will be phenomenal. That won't happen anywhere near GTA 6 either. So if you're hoping that you were going to get it at the back end of next year, because it's been shown and it's 12 months, 14 months is their average runtime, there's no way Sony's going to do their 2 biggest titles potentially within 3 months of each other. They're just not going to do it. The marketing machine's not that big. So look at what was announced, look at what's coming, what's in the wings.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about what the point is of Hoodrich's line of questioning. So if you have money for 3 games and accessories, you can't afford GTA 6. Yeah, the way math works is if a U.S. consumer has $500 of disposable cash in a month, which I think is a rather high amount to go out and spend just on gaming, and you spend $450 of that on your Nintendo Switch purchase plus accessories plus games, you therefore have only $50 left over and therefore cannot afford another $70 game. So I hope that paints the picture that we're talking about. What you do is then you have some consumers who will go buy that Switch 2 and all the stuff that goes along with it, and then won't buy GTA 6 until the next month or the month after that. And that's the point we're trying to make. The point we're trying to make is your flooding a market and forcing people to make choices that you don't have to make when you can choose a different release date, which is what happens all the time. People choose to not release their games in the same window. People choose to not release products in the same window. That's why this freaking Samsung Galaxy S comes out at one point of the year and the iPhone comes out at a different point of the year.
Apple doesn't want that smoke, Logic. No, I mean it's to Hoodrich. So what you, it's fine. You don't have to agree, but that's just the reality of the situation, Hoodrich. It is not, as Logic said, it's not a binary argument. They are different scenarios, different consumers. Different consumers have different budgets, and so if you're a publisher, do you want to run the risk of cannibalizing potential sales because you're running up against the release of a Nintendo Switch, another device where people may prioritize that purchase over GTA 6? That's a real thing. That's going to happen. Happens all the time in the consumer markets. So it's, I mean, and yeah, you'll have some people that will do both, that will buy the Nintendo Switch and all the accessories in GTA 6. Actually, gentleman who just joined us, Nate, what's going on, Nate, might be one of those individuals who does that and go out and buy the new RTX 5080 in the same week. So, I mean, it's not a binary thing, Hoodrich. I mean, it's just the reality of the dynamics of the consumer market, that every consumer is different. But as a publisher, you want to maximize, I think you would agree with this, Falky, you want to maximize your ROI, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to spend $50 million on a marketing campaign to get 10 million buys in the first 2 weeks, if you could then potentially get 12 million buys in the first 2 weeks just by shifting it out a month, well, you do that. You take the cost of the shift, and it might cost you another $1 million, but 2 million additional units sold on launch day at full bang, that's big returns. The last thing you want to do is have let's call it a days gone issue, where you launch having spent millions of dollars on marketing, and then it just does not hit the performance targets, and you're forever trying to play catch up. And then you've got to launch it on another platform to try and maximize, and you cannibalize the launch on the next platform. And Days Gone's probably it isn't the only one that's done it. There's multiple ones that have done it.
I mean, we've seen
bad game, but you're pushing it up against something else that's just it's not a sensible time to do it.
I mean, Falco, we've seen publishers push back release dates because they don't want to go against the 800-pound gorilla in the room that's getting ready to release, because they know that they don't stand a chance.
Yeah, and
then to your point, they're playing catch up after that.
Yeah, depending on the deal, then, like if PlayStation's got the marketing rights to this thing, sole marketing rights to this thing, then they've got an 8-week window or a 10-week, even a 12-week window, which I would think would be insane. If they're doing a 12-week run, PlayStation is focused on nothing else. You saw it with Spider-Man 2 when that thing was running into launch. You saw it with God of War Ragnarok. They are focused on nothing else but their number one contributor to maximize the amount of day one sales, because in the first week or 2 weeks, that's the only opportunity, and they know it's their best opportunity to maximize the sales of this, whatever it is, the game they're selling. In decades gone past, and we when we get nostalgic and we talk about PS1 or PS2, NES, SNES, and then we get into PS3, Xbox 360 era, and all that sort of stuff, when they're all physical, the challenge was always you'd print it, you'd run it, you'd put it on the shelf, and then 6 months later you'd find them in the bargain bin, because the 4 to 6 month window was when the next round of games had come through, and then the 6 months to the next one. We don't have a 6 month window anymore. We've got like a 10-day window because of digital delivery. If you've got a game launching, you've got a 10-day, basically a 10 to 12-day window, 2 weeks at most, to get the maximum out of the sales on that thing if you're running a major marketing rush. And Forte would be able to back this up in a lot more detail with what he sees going through the stores. But from a business perspective, if you don't meet it in that window, that target window, the tail is long, but the tail is discounted. And the last thing you want to do is try and play catch up 2 months after you've launched a game, because you're never going to get there. You've got to discount the game to get the sales numbers up, and then you forever playing catch up. So, yeah, it's you want to maximize it, and particularly if with GTA 6 has got so much riding on it now, just because of the performance of Take-Two over the last 2 years and the forecast they've got coming into next year. that thing's got to, well, if they hit the target that they should be aiming at, if they started from a base of break even flat zero, they would be looking at a record to start with. The fact that they've got to recover nearly $5 billion worth of losses with that game, effectively with GTA 6.
Can I chime in real quick, Logic? I mean, not Logic, Falky. To your point here, this is why you want to get those upfront sales as quickly as possible.
Yep.
What you just said, and it put a smile on whose faces? The shareholders.
Shareholders.
Yeah.
They're putting the bill at the moment.
Yeah, you don't want
shareholders are paying a massive premium for this game to get built for those of us to play it.
You don't want to extend the sales tail on this. No. You want to recoup as much as that up front as quickly as possible, which is I think kind of addresses Hoodrich's point here. The same $70 you have one month is the same $70 next month. Go ahead, Logic. I think you want to chime in.
Well, actually, it's not. It's the same number of bills, but that $70 the next month is actually worth less than the $70 of the previous month because of the constantly decreasing loss of value of the dollar, which is a law of economics that Adam Smith talked about back in the 1700s, which still holds true today. So, I mean, one last thing that I'll kind of say on this topic. One last thing I'll say on this topic is right the risk of taking a perspective and doing an assessment of the market from this notion of that things are too big to fail. There's a that's again, that's not the rubric, right? Nobody's saying that GTA 6 is going to fail. It's a matter of, but can it do the best that it possibly can? And for the $1 that you're spending for the level of effort for the associated development and the marketing, like Falky has talked about, are you maximizing your potential of return? And that just quantifiably is not the case if you were to launch on the same day as the Nintendo Switch 2. And then that risk and that impact, right, lessens the further away you get from the release until you get to a point where you're outside the window where the impact is negligible. When you think about Call of Duty sets records every single year, right? I think it's been since, I can't remember how long it's been, but whatever the metric was, since 2000, sometime in the 2000 teens, sometime just north of 2010, the best-selling game in the US every year has been a Call of Duty game or a Grand Theft Auto game, with I think 1 or 2 years of exceptions. That, despite that being the fact, Activision felt compelled to sell to Microsoft. So it's not a notion that something is so big, and I constantly talk about how Call of Duty sucks all the air out of the room and impacts competition, and that's going to get worse. But it's still absolutely feasible for something as gargantuan as it can be to still wind up being thinly capitalized in the case of Activision, and to wind up being in duress. So, like I said, I don't know, and I definitely don't agree with this notion that, like, a singular title, a big franchise, Grand Theft Auto 6 setting records, blah 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 blah. Sure, but that doesn't mean that it's invulnerable and that there aren't choices and decisions that have to be made with awareness of what else is going on in the market.
Yeah, Josh Harris brings up a great point. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn got hammered because it launched right with Zelda and the Nintendo Switch. I remember that. I mean, and this was a game that was critically acclaimed, and it eventually ended up selling well, but that tail was a bit longer had it not gone up against the Nintendo Switch, Legend of Zelda, and all the other games that launched on the Nintendo Switch.
As I maintain, if there is a Pokemon game coming out with the new Switch at launch date, stand back. Just stand back from the fences. The kids will go bananas. Young adults will go bananas. Older adults with nostalgia will just go bananas. Those things sell tens of millions of copies in the first weeks, months, and yeah, it'll just take off. So anyway, I think we've covered that one enough.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I do want to move. I want to move on to the announcements at E3. I thought, again, as I said earlier in the show, I thought there were some really great announcements. Go ahead, Logic.
You mean at the TGAs?
What did I say?
You just said E3.
Which,
I get your
felt
point.
like
That's
E3.
the semantic, but
yeah, it felt like E3. So Josh Ayers is like E3. Yeah, it felt like E3. No, I mean, look, great announcements. I mean, this felt like E3 to me. This is what I said earlier. I mean, Jesus, Capcom announced Onimusha, Turok Origins. Who saw that coming? Sega, you mentioned earlier, Game Logic, Virtua Fighter.
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah, I don't mean to castigate your disorganization, but can we go down the list?
We can go down the list. Yeah, I'm just throwing out some. Yeah, we'll go down the list here. I guess I can read all the announcements if you guys. If you want, if you guys want to go through all of them.
I will go on record and say I don't give a crap about anything that was announced in the pre-show. That's just me.
Well, I mean, Ninja Gaiden Rebound. I mean, that was a big announcement. I'll go to some of the Dave the Diver in the Jungle that was announced. Shadow Labyrinth, Steel Paws, Kyora, Rematch, which was that's the Sifu devs are behind that game. It's that, like, what is it? The 5-on-5 soccer game?
Hold on, man.
Yeah.
We give Forte a lot of crap.
Yeah.
Are you eating not only on the audio podcast but on the camera podcast?
No, actually, it's a cough drop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not eating food. It's a cough drop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually thought Rematch was kind of interesting. I'm at about a 3 on it out of my 6-point scale. Obviously wondering to see how it's going to stick the landing, but it kind of gave off like NFL Blitz kind of vibes.
I remember you saying that earlier. Yeah,
kind of vibes.
The arcade. Yeah.
So it's interesting. In a time where EA doesn't have the license, which has had no impact on their sales capability, but it's still just from a mind share perspective, potentially a ripe time to kind of steal some of the sunlight and interest from people who are interested in soccer, and maybe aren't super interested in like the depth of the constraining rules in FC, in football club with all the things you have to learn and figure out. Something that makes things a little easier and a little more accessible for people who are still interested in the sport.
Yep. Solasta 2 was announced. I'm going down. I'm going to get some of the bangers here. The Witcher 4.
No, BRAP. Come on,
what?
Man. We got to give the. We just sat here and said all these announcements. We got to give these at least some room to breathe. Solasta 2, interesting looking game.
No, I'm not interested. That's why I went past it. Well, Logic. Hey, I like the bangers, man. I only want to talk about the bangers.
Well, there's only about 3 then.
That's all I want to talk about. Yeah. No, go ahead. But okay, how about this, Logic? I'll go down the list. If there's games you want to talk about, we'll
Question.
Yeah, go
Are
ahead.
we only talking about full games, or are we talking about potential DLCs and add-ons as well?
Well, apparently only if it's Elden Ring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Go ahead. Solasta 2. Go
I
ahead.
was just going to mention Solasta 2 looks very interesting from a premise and from a story perspective. The bit snip of gameplay that I saw didn't necessarily turn me on as far as going down this road with an RTS, but we'll wait and see how it sticks the landing.
Yeah. All right. Let me get to the Witcher 4 now. Witcher 4. We saw the debut trailer. Ciri is featured, assuming she's going to be the main protagonist in this. Actually, that was the rumor, by the way. That they were going to.
Should be if you've played the games and you actually paid attention.
Well, I don't know, Nate. Apparently, CD Projekt Red is apparently quote unquote woke now.
Oh man, yeah. I ain't listening to these non-Witcher players. They don't know what's up.
They don't.
CD Projekt Red's in Poland, right?
Yes.
Has anyone seen the Polish foreign minister on YouTube?
No.
Or on Twitter or on Twitch or any of those places? Go and watch what he. You tell me if that country's woke or not.
Probably not, but I thought the game trailer looked great. Obviously, I'm a fan of The Witcher. Fantastic Netflix edit. The adaptation of The Witcher on Netflix is great. Unfortunately, Henry Cavill's not playing Geralt anymore. It's I forget its name now. The guy that
Liam Hemsworth.
Yeah, the guy that dated Miley Cyrus. That's hard. That's my claim to fame for him. So, but I thought he's all right. Yeah, Yeah, but I thought the trailer looked great. I'm excited for The Witcher 4. Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games of 2015.
So,
If I'm not
yeah,
mistaken. Yeah.
something like that. I like what Nate's saying, and finally the two of us is who were both scheduled are both here and in full voice and full song. It's good to see that you're well down, mate. I honestly thought because I was showing up, you weren't showing up. So I'm
No,
glad
man.
that we've got that sorted.
I appreciate it. No, man.
Anyone?
I'm always down to talk about it, man.
Absolutely.
Like you said, the Witcher was phenomenal. That was an incredible showing.
It was a great first look. Yeah.
Yeah, they knew exactly what they were doing when they put that out on stage. It did exactly what it was supposed to. Priscilla specifically, this is how I know when something does its job, right? Priscilla's very picky, right? I told her she's a lot like Logic. Logic is also very picky. But when something really,
I'm sorry, did you say Logic was picky?
Oh, Logic is super picky. I have a list of things that
I'm-
Logic likes.
I'm particular and quirky. I'm not necessarily like picky. Like I have
Well,
I have a low
what you
bar for
like
things
is
I'll
what
go
I-
for.
is
if
what
they're
I
in my
mean when I say
wheelhouse.
picky.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you,
Yep.
yeah.
Like,
But-
I'll say like, oh, that game looks great. Logic be like, not interested.
No. But that's what I mean though. Logic has like a hard line where he's like, yeah, that's a no. Like,
Yeah, he's like, there's no like, you made no.
no.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
like for this, I'm at a 4 of 6. Like I mean, it's yes, it looked great. But I don't necessarily know that it's going down on my wish list. CD Projekt Red for me has yet to prove, and I haven't played enough of Cyberpunk, so maybe they've dispelled this, but what they've always historically had for me from a game design perspective is the way they event trigger so many, in particular, side missions that create the possibility for a side mission to become broken if that chain of events like doesn't happen. Like their design doesn't allow that to be recoverable in some cases. Like there are side missions in The Witcher 3 that are still broken to this day, which I don't get. Now, that being said, CD Projekt Red is one of the greatest studios on the planet.
Logic,
So-
I need you to go read the contract again. There's also a line in there about.
Oh, we haven't even gotten to the Elden Ring slander yet.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
This is just one of those
Yeah.
games that I get it. It's monumental. Tons of people are going to play it. It has a story premise that I do like. Will I specifically put it on my go get it list? Probably not. Definitely not on day one. And I may significantly lag before I ever get around to it. But I'm glad it exists and I'm glad it's getting out there and it moves the football for the industry.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Lord Azriel here. Says I need to see actual gameplay. The trailer was nice, but doesn't tell me much. You should probably go back and play, if you haven't done so already, The Witcher 3. That would probably give you some idea of what the gameplay will be like. And
so when people say that, right, you gotta
that tells me you haven't played The
how
Witcher.
certain studios work, right? Like some studios are like, World of Warcraft, right? Nothing you see in their trailer is gonna happen, right? But CD Projekt Red is really deliberate, right? Like when they put something in the trailer, when they show you certain things, even in the CG or in engine, whatever, like it's going to be a precursor to what you're going to get to do gameplay wise, right? Like the whole chain thing, and everything that was happening in it, like they are phenomenal at making sure all this stuff that they're showing you is very deliberate. That's why I said that trailer was so well done.
It was, and he says he's played all of them. I don't know how, if you played all of them, how you would. And I don't know.
I'll step in. I'll step in his defense, right? I think there's space to be held here for even a fan to lean back just a little bit until they see more on this game. Number one, this game's going to be on a new engine, right? New engine. Number two, yes, they worked hard and they came back, but the launch of Cyberpunk is still a thing. That's not a thing to necessarily be wiped off the board.
Well, also the Witcher 3 had a little bit of a shaky launch too, Logic. Like it had some issues, some bugs. Some of those side missions that were broken, you mentioned, those things happened in CD and Cyberpunk as well. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I think there's, and that's fair, Lord. If you're saying like, hey, I want to see if the retail release doesn't have those bugs, that could be game breaking. Yeah, that's fair. So but that's different from gameplay, I think.
I'll go back to the age-old argument that we've had in time eternity since game trailers started showing up online. If they're announcing a game, does it have to have gameplay, actual gameplay there? Because if the answer is yes, we will only find out about these things 6 months from launch. If you want to know what's coming longer than that, settle for CGI. They've shown us that it's coming. They've shown us what the character models and stuff will probably look like. They've put all the disclaimers at the bottom saying not actual gameplay, not this, not that, whatever. That's fine. As I mentioned earlier, we're talking about Ninja Gaiden. Cinematic trailers just open games when nothing even close to what you actually got to play. But we just accepted it. Look at the start of Ridge Racer Type 4. That was on PS1. That thing looked like we would stand up against most intro trailers in today's standards. And it was nothing like the game. Absolutely nothing like the game. It happened all the time back then. PS1, PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, Super NES, all the way through. But if we want to know, is there a game coming? Yes. Everyone wants to know what's coming. And as soon as you show it in a CGI trailer to say there is a game coming, most people will then get the shits about it and say, well, I didn't want to see the CGI in the announcement. I wanted to see gameplay. I wanted to see this. I want to see that. Like the whole thing is meant to be just for you as an individual. If you want to know, now you know. But if you wanted something else out of it, don't expect to find out about these things 12, 18 months in advance. Otherwise, you'll get what's happened with Avowed and Indiana Jones. And now what's happened with a heap of other games where they launched them 12 or 18 months out. And then we waited and we waited and we waited. Where's Fable? Where's Perfect Dark? Where are they at? They're not anywhere to be seen because they've been announced with a CGI trailer and they were years away.
But
Don't expect that Naughty Dog game to be out in the next 6 months because if there's no gameplay in the trailer, it's not in that tight window. But if you want to know a long way out, you're just going to have to suffer CGI trailers. I'm sorry. That's just how the business is at the moment.
But I don't think he's thinking that hard line. And I definitely get like there are people who like you show a CGI trailer. Yeah. That was CGI. They shouldn't have bothered announcing that early. Looks mid. I get like, yes, there's that faction out there. I don't know that he's voicing that. I think what he's just voicing is like a lot of the ways that I feel about a lot of things a lot of times. Like BRAP is saying, big game comes out, super interesting. Everybody's pom-pomming and rah-rahing it. I look at it and I go, yeah, it's good that I know that the game's coming out 3 out of 6. When I see gameplay, then I'll decide whether or not my meter moves higher than that. So I just think he has some feelings. And I know, BRAP, you're saying, you know, that's not necessarily gameplay. Yes, but again, because we've had the UE5 problem this entire generation, because we've had issues with teams moving engines. I talked about Codemasters, who is one of my favorite, top 5 game development studios of all time. But their shift to UE engine and getting off of their Ego engine was just horrific. And the gameplay for EAWRC 24, 25, or whatever it was starkly different than any Codemasters game that I'd ever played before. So, I mean, I know that they're going to go for the same style, but again, even in the realm of gameplay, I think it's fine to have a shadow of doubt, right, with where this thing is going to wind up until we see more.
I think the concern I would have if I'm casting concerns on The Witcher 4 would be the issues that have plagued other, releases of CD Projekt Red's games. I mean, look, the launch of Cyberpunk was not good. It cost CD Projekt Red millions of dollars because so many people refunded the game, or they issued so many refunds, right?
Yeah.
The Witcher 3, it launched better, I think, than from what I remember than Cyberpunk, but it had issues. It had some issues. I remember that. It had some launches, some bugs. So
there's a solution to that. Don't buy it day one.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say that too. The other option is, look, we could always wait and once those bugs are ironed out, then you buy the game. But
what I'm thinking on those specifically is pedigree, right? The studio's pedigree. So
hold on, Nate, real quick. Real quick. I'm sorry. I want to say, I'm sorry. Real quick. I want to finish this thought, but the one thing that makes that concern that I hope. And maybe I'm putting too much faith in the studio, but I'm hoping that there's lessons learned from the launch of Cyberpunk, because I don't think they can stomach or afford launching another game, another big budget AAA title with the same issues as Cyberpunk, where they're refunding millions of dollars of games. I think that would be disastrous to the studio. And hopefully there's some lessons learned there. We'll see, but I'm hoping there's some lessons learned from the release of Cyberpunk. And go ahead, Logic.
Before you step
Yeah.
in, EA, and I think that's all this person is saying. This person is saying, I saw the trailer. Great that I know that it's coming. We'll see. I'm not going to sit here and rah and pom it until I see more. And I get pedigree, but again, I go back to you scored a bunch of touchdowns and then you fumbled the ball, and you have after the recovery, right, and doing the DLC for Cyberpunk, there are lots of people who had their confidence restored, but we should acknowledge that there's a segment of the market that confidence hasn't been restored, regardless of what they've done in the past. Bethesda fumbled a ball and they didn't recover, as far as I'm concerned. Blizzard fumbled a ball, they did recover. But we should acknowledge that the next release afterwards, right, there are going to be some people who are fine and think Blizzard is good to go after Diablo 4, and there'll be some people who are going to hold back and say, I need to wait and see more.
Yeah, so to what I was pointing out is like one thing I don't want people to get mixed up, right? The reason I'm excited for this is the pedigree of the studio and what they're capable of delivering. So let's get one thing straight, right? No matter how broken, Cyberpunk was at launch, the game that was there was still better than a bunch of other games that came out regardless. Like the actual foundation, the game that was there, the game they fixed, right? Like this in the same light, right? Where you had was it Redfall, right? It didn't matter that game got a 60 FPS patch. The game was trash. Like, I'm sorry. It just is what it is. Like, it was bad. I played it. I got 165 FPS before the 60 patch even came out. It was terrible.
Your game admitting to that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It was terrible. Like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, people are excited for the pedigree of what they're capable of and what the studio has delivered. People who have actually enjoyed and gone through the game and stuff like that. I get being like I said, being hesitant or being like, I want to wait for more. I'm always cool with wait for more. But I'll explain it. This studio is not like ground level. Like this is one of the best studios in the world, period. So I'm vastly excited for the phenomenal story, narrative, and quest design that this team is capable of when all this stuff does work out the window. And I do believe that they've definitely learned their lesson, BRAP, to what you mentioned, right? Like, I mean, they've spoken on it at length, right? Is any game ever going to launch 100% without it? No. But in the same vein, I also played Cyberpunk 2077 day one, and I ran into 0 bugs in my initial playthrough on PC. So, at the same time, we all got our individual experiences, because I've seen games where they've been flawless for most people, and then I've seen people just run into every bug that no one else has ever seen. So, I mean, that's just how gaming is. So I get it.
I don't entirely disagree with you. What I will say is one thing, even from my software development perspective, right? This is a big thing that we go by a thumb rule, right? When I have to estimate my next job,
yeah,
and I'm planning on putting a team on it. Quite honestly, I don't care what the pedigree of the team is. I am only as like I estimate my next software development job based on I am only as good as the last thing that I did. And so if the last thing that I did was dorked up, I expect to run into adversity. So that's a bit of inside baseball. But all I'm saying is that I think what I want to make sure I want to convey is all of us on the panel have different perspectives. And I just want to make absolutely certain that what we're projecting to the chat is that we're not being dismissive of the notion that not everybody is on a super high level of confidence after seeing the Witcher 4 trailer. Absolutely interesting. Nice to see it on the landscape. Pleasant to see that it's coming. But you're going to have a bunch of people who are like, okay, roger that. I'll hold my hands behind my back until I see more. And I just want to make sure that we're giving voice to that and giving space to that and not discounting it.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I mean, I don't like I said, they don't have to be as excited, right?
That doesn't sound like resounding concurrency, Nate.
No, I mean, it does. Like, I mean, I get it, like I said, But like I said, there's different things that also, like you said, we have different things that we're always going to be excited for, right? Like you mentioned the game a minute ago, and Brap was like, "No, I'm trying to skip that." Like that's what I mean, though. Like we're gonna have different levels of excitement for each one, but we all agree that was still a big announcement. Like I didn't see that coming. It was a solid announcement trailer, is what I'll say, regardless.
It was. The other thing I would have thrown out a cautionary tale of, I also would have cautioned us to not fall down the same same hill as some other brand fans that we know of who rah-rah
Yeah.
and pom-pom games and development studios based on pedigree.
Oh
Right?
yeah, no. If they're gonna, if they still gotta deliver, right? And I do agree with you, right? Because I'm the same way. I mentioned this when you were playing Dragon Age, right? That I was very cautious about Dragon Age because the last game that BioWare put out, I hated it, and I love BioWare. So their next game, Mass Effect coming up, I am super cautious because they have to deliver to me what the trilogy used to, and that is no longer the team that is there. So they don't get to be, hey, that's BioWare, so I'm day one. No. Like,
Well,
you
that's
gotta prove to me that you're capable of delivering that game. So yeah,
and
no,
this
I definitely agree.
same the same can be applied here with CG Project Red. Most of those that made The Witcher 3 are no longer there.
Yeah.
But and look, it's I'm going to take some liberty here, Brap. So please, if it's one of those situations where we know you can do it, just don't fuck it up. All right, we'll stand by and we will wait with bated breath, but just don't fuck it up, please.
I feel you. I feel you.
Because the and to just add on to what I said earlier about if you've played the games and you finish the games, you understand it, and you've watched the TV series on Netflix and you understand that. Read the damn books. If you've read the books, particularly The Lady of the Lake, you will understand what opportunity is available in this game if they take that character and put it through an original style story, or it's some kind of story that moves on from The Witcher 1, 2, and 3. The opportunity that is available here is insane. If they've got the right story writers and they've got the right creative team working it, that can turn into something, quite amazing. And it would not work with Geralt being the lead. You would get The Witcher 3 all over again, basically. They tapped him out in his creative capacity in Witcher 3, from my perspective. There's no point having Yennefer as the lead because that takes it away from being a grounded swordplay game. You're moving into a fantasy and magic game, which is, you might as well make Forspoken 2. Ciri's got an excellent platform to expand on that baseline from Witcher 3, having something there that we're familiar with, but a character that's already developed and we've watched grow up through the series and through the books and all the rest of it, and now can take what they're doing with this is effectively what people are demanding they do with Uncharted 5. Take the daughter and make the next step. So happy to see it. Just don't stuff it up, please.
I love this trailer, by the way. I thought it was fantastic. This is, as a fan of the series, just watching this is like, wow.
No, but
You
that's
know?
what I was saying. When you're a fan of the series and I was calling out the names of spells and things that she was using. That's what I said. When you know, right? And that's really what I felt like this trailer really spoke to, is a lot of fans of the series. Like they just nailed so many things. Her drinking the potion, all the little different things that are happening when you're conscious of her abilities.
What's on the screen at the moment? Geralt can't do that.
No, Geralt cannot do that. No.
Geralt can't do that. So there's another depth that Ciri can bring to it, and it's only Ciri that can do it. Sorry, Nate, keep going.
No, you're good. But that's what I'm saying. Like for a glimpse there, we got to play as Ciri, during The Witcher 3, and that anybody who remembers that moment, it was exciting, right? You got to get a taste of what she was capable of, and now we're gonna get the full-fledged, Witcher, grown, aware of my power Ciri. Like you can't not be excited about that.
Yep, and particularly if it's in that segment beyond the Lady of the Lake book. That's the starting. And that's beyond. Well, the Witcher 3 ends sort of prior to that book, to a degree. It's beyond that. If we get beyond that, then we're in a realm that can be quite interesting. But I'll leave it there because I'm a big fan of The Witcher. So
I did not have a massive The Witcher 4 trailer controversy on my bingo card for tonight. You're gonna have to you have to retitle the podcast after this, Brett.
Yeah, exactly.
Brap will be happy because the next one in line is the one we're really going to burn him on.
Oh, come on. There's no, come on. You guys can't do that. I need to resend you the contract, Falky.
I still haven't got the first one. The carrier pigeon hasn't made it yet.
Yeah, well, you're on the other side of the world. It will be there soon, though. We'll be there, I promise. Yeah, so there was another big announcement. This trailer's so good.
I'm sorry, Brett.
Yeah,
can I ask one more question? Just really
go
quick.
ahead.
I do want to get Nate's question answer to this. Do you think it helped the trailer or hurt the trailer having the Geralt voiceover at the end?
That is a good point. Okay. I'll say help only because of how much people are a fan. Because I still think that they didn't lead anybody on. I think the trailer made it clear she's the main character. But I think it just gives that nuance back to that feel, kind of like the way Naughty Dog gave the voiceover for part 2, despite what transpires. When you hear his voice, Geralt has a specific thing that has traveled with us for so many years. So yeah, I think a lot of fans appreciated it, and I enjoyed it. Yeah.
It may also be that it's similar to some other games like a Dragon. What was the first one? Not Infinite Wealth. What was the first one that had? Can't remember his name now. It was the first one without Kiryu as the main character, and you hear it in the trailer. His voice is there, but you get so far into the game before you actually find that he's in it. I don't think it's misleading, but at the same time, it may be that because there's multiple projects in the go. It may be that there's a tie-in. There's a tie-in somewhere to either another game or part of closing off the back end of The Witcher 3 at the start of that game. It might be that he's a non-playable character that just pops in and out like Vesemir was in The Witcher 3. I don't know if it diminished the trailer. It certainly added a new dimension to it that while I was excited to hear the voice, I was disappointed that it was there because you want to. Yeah. Anyway, it's one of those mixed emotion things for me, at least.
And Brad, is that a super chat from B Bunny?
I don't know. There's no super chats. I don't think so. Let me check.
On my StreamYard, it shows as a starred comment, so I don't know. I thought that's how.
No, it's not. No, it's not super chat.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. All right, let's move on for the Witcher controversy to a game that I know Logic's looking forward to. Oh, look at this beauty right here. Look at this. I mean, this screams Game of the Year already. Oh, look at that.
I thought DLCs weren't allowed to be Game of the Year.
Apparently not. Well, apparently this is a new standalone game within
Isn't it funny how they said that?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting.
Had to say that.
Yeah. Because I missed that part, and I was like, oh, DLC, and I think maybe it was you, Logic, who said no, it's actually standalone. Yeah. So I was surprised. But again, another announcement that I was surprised about at the Game Awards show. I wasn't expecting Bandai Namco to announce anything new. Elden Ring.
Those monsters in the background.
Yeah, you see the shadows in the background, those monsters. Yeah, look at that. Yeah. And then once I saw that, I'm like, oh, this is Elden Ring. But yeah, look, everyone knows how I feel about the From God, so I don't have much to say about this other than I'm hyped and I will be playing this. So
the comment is the next expansion in FromSoftware's Game of the Year is a standalone adventure in the Elden Ring universe. But it's entitled Elden Ring Night Reign. And it's what was it? It's a cooperative. I don't know how you explain it. The way I thought it was like, Ghost of Tsushima Legends or something like that, where you do these runs in multiplayer co-op like a kind of like what is it? Player versus environment or whatever they are. It'd be interesting if friendly fire is on, so to speak. Come up and knife each other in the back. It'd be funny.
That would drive me nuts. I hope not.
But if it is, this will hit. This will go well because people love this game, love this universe, love the story, the lore, and all the rest of it. And the trailer looks pretty cool. But it'll spark that argument around: is it a standalone on its own, or is it an expansion too, or is it a sequel of? Should it not? Because this thing's going to do numbers.
No, I mean, I would stand in the door of that argument. Like look, I'm not pleased or happy, and I don't concur with the DLC being nominated for Game of the Year. The BAFTAs, by the way, made the right decision on how to treat DLC. So
it's because the BAFTAs are biased, but that's another conversation.
Maybe Westerners could take a learn a lesson from their British forefathers. But I mean, one thing I want to point back to is, right, remember FromSoft said, like, at the launch of Elden Ring, that it was their intention for this to be a long-term enduring IP, and that they were going to do several games kind of in this universe. So this follows suit to me. It's not entirely surprising that it's DLC, but still bearing kind of the Elden Ring precursor. My personal feelings about it, unfortunately, my TGA announcement reaction scale goes from 1 to 6, and there is not a 0. But if there was a 0 that existed, that's where this game would land.
So he's going to give it a 1, but he's going to take a point off for some reason. I'd be interested to know, because it wasn't listed in the trailer, and it's just in the commentary and the reporting I've seen so far. It says it's a standalone adventure in the universe. Is it buy it on its own, or do you have to have Elden Ring to play it? Because if you've got to have Elden Ring to play it, then by default it's a DLC. That's not casting aspersions is going to be any good. This thing is going, for those who loved it, they're going to love this from the look of it. But
I feel like whatever your criticisms, people's criticisms are about Jeff, I feel like his scripting and how he articulates things around game announcements is very hyper specific. I would hope that his script writers did not have him say that soundbite for there to be a wackadoodle right after this, that this is some type of expansion. I mean, standalone expansion typically means that it's like Miles Morales, right? It's an expansion on a universe or an IP or a game. But if you buy on at least PC, if you buy it and install it, it may be like in the same launcher, or both games or something. But regardless, you can still buy it standalone and play it by itself.
Yeah, but it's pretty cool that we get this. So we had Elden Ring launch 2 years ago? It won Game of the Year 2 years ago. Last year we got a major DLC for it, and then at the Game Awards, and the major DLC, I think, was the DLC announced at the Game Awards last year when it won, or the year before when it won, and then we get the expansion here. They're doing all right, considering they've got 2 other games they're working on. They're doing all right. So again, you look back at the history of what they've done, and not forget, FromSoftware did Armored Core 6 in there as well. So they've been pretty busy, and all props to them. As I said at the start, Bandai Namco was one of the 3 publishers that was just absolutely hammering it out in terms of announcements and big things coming in the next 12 months. This thing's out in a couple of months, so yeah. Good luck again. Good luck anything else launching in that couple of weeks before or after this thing kicks off.
I tell you, 2025 is looking good.
Hectic.
Yeah, exactly. It is. Yeah. And Nate, what about you? What did you think about the trailer?
Honestly, it's surprising because I've spoken to you before that I don't really play Elden Ring like that. I'm not a big fan. I mean, I own it. I've played it. But I'm not really a big fan. But I like what I saw from the trailer. But I got to see how does what I saw translate to actuality when you play it, right? Like, the movements look a lot more fluid. They look a lot more fast paced. It looks like as I mentioned in the chat, they actually learned how to do co-op and stop letting the community mod it for them to give seamless co-op. So hopefully that's true, because that's one of the big frustrations for me in the series. I famously was in Discord listening to Luca and Slow Mo try to get Ramon Terrell through through a summoning sequence when he first started in the Discord, and it sounded like trigonometry, and I was like, this is ridiculous to have to do all this to play together. And Slow Mo and Luca had not played in months, so it was atrocious. So hopefully they handled that, and it looks like it plays as well as it looked in that trailer. But if that trailer represents actuality, then yeah, I think I'll be really interested. Famously, the only one I really enjoyed was the one I primarily played co-op from them, as far as a Souls game, which was Demon Souls. So if it's full on co-op, I can see myself enjoying it a lot more. And you know, it looks like a lot more. Looks like a potential distinction between a lot more of the class types and stuff like that, which I thought was really dope. So like now somebody could really play a tank, somebody could get back there and stab them up rogue style, have a mage, so on and so forth, and really get into their roles and exhibit some distinctions. So yeah, I mean it looked good. I hope I hope it plays as good as it looks, and then I'll be there.
So there's this running joke between BRAP and I, where I've co-opted one of the bits and lines from the Kind of Funny Games Daily guys, and that is "Let game logic host." And so now I have my opportunity. So Falky, keep me honest, because I may not be looking at the exact same list that you're looking at.
Yeah, you're right.
So as far as I know, after the Elden Ring Night Rain announcement, we got an announced game, and I don't think I have permissions to bring it up on the screen. I think I tried to share a screen, but I think perhaps got control of the studio. So there was a unannounced game from legendary Fumito Ueda. And I guess I missed this announcement, but I guess this was just a verbal announcement without
No,
oh no, there was a
there
little
was
tiny
a
trailer.
sizzle reel, but it was basically from the creator of Ico, Shadow of the Colossus. Crap, what's the other one he did? Can't remember now.
The Last Guardian.
The Last
Yeah, there
Guardian.
you go.
Sorry, should remember
Shadow,
that.
yeah, you said Shadow. So
Back in the studio, working on something. Project's got a title. Project's in its early days. Yeah. But we're getting told that, and I'm really happy for it. I love the stuff that he's done in the past, and hopefully we get to see some new what the new is, particularly with a new engine and a new team and a new publisher. It should be good. The list I'm looking at does have two things that were skipped. Is the announcement of which I'm happy to skip over, is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth PC announcement trailer, and that Final Fantasy VII Remake is also going there as well. And everyone knows my thoughts and feelings about that game. And there was a new open world focus on hyperrealism coming to Steam, Nintendo Switch, and the Apple Store, which is called Catly. Basically about cats. So that'll make a few people happy. But yeah, I don't think that we need to go into detail on those two. But yeah, this one from Fumito Ueda is going to be, you think about those three games: Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, and Guardian. It's you can imagine it's going to be an emotional roller coaster. Yeah, I'm keen. I'm super keen.
So I assume that most people's reaction scales go up to 5, unlike mine that goes up to 6. So is it safe to say that you're at about a 3 or a 4 on this one?
I'm probably a little bit more. I'm probably at a 5 out of 6 on it. And the excitement comes not just from who it is and what they're doing, and talking about what their game's going to be, very limited on knowledge. It's that veteran creatives have gotten out of the big companies and they've gotten some funding and they've got a team around them that are passionate in the project. It's like the indie thing that really you can hear I'm getting excited. It hypes me up so much because they know what they're doing. They know how to get there. They know what they want to do, and it's not under a massive corporate juggernaut that they've got to hit certain targets on. They can take the risk. They can do what they love doing. If it's fails, it fails, but at least they're going to have a crack at it. And it's rife through the whole show was big name not publishers, big name creatives, I call it that, directors, writers, people who've developed and produced games. They are out on their own with funding and permission to basically go forth and do. And that's why I give it a 5 out of 6 rather than a 4 out of 6. Is untied from the shackles and able to flex. You know, when Kojima got out of Konami, everyone was like, "Oh, this is this is that," and all the rest of it was like, "I can't wait to see what he does because it's gonna be different. He's unshackled. He's got some funding. He's gonna do what he likes." And he popped up with Death Stranding, the most Kojima game you could even imagine. And then it's like, well, okay, cool. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it didn't have to be. But it's actually done really well. So I'm really keen and excited to see what this turns out to be because it looked interesting. A lot of climbing in it. So maybe it's a PlayStation game because there's shitloads of climbing in it, but it's same as the last ones. They had a lot of climbing in it. So it's anyway. I'm prattling on because I'm excited. Sorry.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There is a similar phenomena. There is a phenomena like a large wave going on in comic books actually right now. That is kind of this smaller nibble that we see happening in the games industry, where a lot of your big name creators, from the mid kind of 2010s. So Jonathan Hickman, Jeff Johns, a lot of these guys are now off at like smaller labels like Image, Dynamite, Boom, doing kind of those labels have allowed them to kind of carve out like a universe where they're doing multiple books. And again, it's the same thing, unshackled from the big publishing at Marvel and DC, where things have to be very coordinated and orchestrated, and there's events popping on and things have to tie in. These guys are kind of like you said, unleashed and unchanged, and doing their own thing and doing kind of remarkable work. So it'll be interesting if we are kind of at the dawn of a similar age. And it's not that hasn't happened in gaming before. It's the question of whether or not it's about to happen at volume, particularly if it's in kind of economic and fiscal reaction to the things that have been going on in the industry post pandemic. But Ine, did you have feelings and or reaction meter score about this particular announcement?
Yeah. I mean, it was cool for me to see. More so, I guess, more for a lot of other people because people were just so sad, after the closure of his prior studio, and maybe he wouldn't do anything else again. And so to see that pop up, I know I was in Discord watching with about 12 other people, so I could kind of, it was palpable. We had some real big fans in there. I'm a big Shadow of the Colossus fan, so to kind of see the climbing, and I'm also a big mech fan, as we were talking about mechs in the chat. So seeing, kind of the mechanical, mech creature in there, there's some potential for what may or may not happen, in his games in the future, for, with this game. So yeah, I mean, I was excited for it. It was a very artistic piece, you get to kind of interpret what you want from it. He loves giving us that initial "I'm not gonna give it away" thing yet. But yeah, I enjoyed what I saw. Like you guys said, I'm excited. So yeah, like you said, probably 5 or 6 out of 10. It was up there for me. I enjoyed it. I definitely didn't see it coming, so it was a big surprise. That's what I'll say. Yeah.
So we already talked about the Outer Worlds 2 gameplay. So BRAP, do you want to pick back up with Split Fiction?
Yeah, I just want to say something about Project Robot. Like, I think to Nate's point, that was one of those surprises, pleasant surprises. Because if you've Shadow of the Colossus for its time when it came out was, I think from a design perspective, kind of, I thought well beyond what was, I think, really capable at the time of the PlayStation 2 hardware. And then if you played the remaster or remake of Shadow of the Colossus by Bluepoint on PS4, I mean, it achieves the vision of the developer of Shadow of the Colossus for PS2. They actually talk about that. So I was excited to see that. Looking forward, and Ico's a classic PlayStation exclusive title as well. I never played The Last Guardian. I know it was a game that was revealed at E3, and then kind of went to feel like it just was out there for a while. No one had heard anything, and then it finally released on PS4. But I thought it looked interesting, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm sorry, what was the other game now, Logic? Just for hold on a
Split
sec here that we
Fiction.
just talking.
Yeah,
What
we
was
should be
it?
up to Split Fiction now.
Oh, Split Fiction, yeah.
Joseph Fares' new game.
Yeah. So this is Hazel Light Studios. You said Joseph Ferris, whose game It Takes Two actually won Game of the Year. I can't remember what year that was. I feel like that's a couple years ago now.
Mm.
But this is this is a more sci-fi fantasy take on or type game from their studios. I thought one of the things I noticed immediately, it seems like the production value is a little bit better is the right word. But I feel like the production values, at least in this particular game, compared to the other games,
It's a bit sharper.
seem like thank you, Falky. So this one's on my radar. This one, I like I said, I really enjoyed It Takes Two. I thought that game was well done and had a blast playing. I actually played it with my kids and had a blast playing it. So
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, this was big for me. I played It Takes Two as well in their prior game with my friend. We enjoyed it a lot. I kind of dragged on at first. I was like, I don't really want to play this game. But, I mean, just the phenomenal platform design in the game was incredible. You know, after I got into it and I finally was like, dang, you know, like they really did their thing in it. And to see them go this route with Split Fiction, yeah, it's day one, like period. Like I'm a huge sci-fi fan. I loved everything that they showed. I mean, the dragons. I mean, it literally speaks to the type of books that I read, right? Um, so I mean, everything on screen just kind of was perfect, you know, and writing myself right now, the way they spoke about it, you know, the two girls being authors, and then basically a device that can bring their you know, their stories to life essentially, and experiencing that firsthand is insane because that's been a big discussion in the writing community. People talk about AI, you know, why can't something just you know, let my thoughts just flow onto the page, you know, and that's kind of what that is. So it was a big surprise to just see that from them. And like you said, I do think that the production value looks like they cranked it up a notch. Yeah, everything about that game is I'm ready, you know. But yeah, like I said, the level design and the way everything switches up, the way he explained just a little bit that they did, with the whole dragons where they started small and they grew up along, you know, the way, and the entire dynamic of the level changes. Again, that's stuff that team has proven to do very well. So yeah, this was a massive excitement one for me. I mean, I knew he was gonna be there, but I didn't know how big, or you know, like what I'd really think of their game when they showed it, because they changed so much game to game. Like A Way Out to It Takes Two is very different. So, and this game was the same thing, and this was a big departure. And like I said, being a sci-fi and fantasy fan of, you know, both worlds, seeing those incorporated so seamlessly in their game design and what they're going to do going forward is just, yeah. That I'm like I said, I'm day one, and it's coming out in March. So I mean, we don't got to wait very long. So.
yeah, I think it's a great point. I like the idea of going in between, you know, both worlds, both genres, right? The sci-fi piece and the fantasy piece.
Mhm.
That's gonna be interesting. Yeah. Any thoughts, Falky? You thought? Yeah.
Oh, I love Joseph. His energy is everything that I love about gaming.
He had
And
one of the first memorable moments, I thought, the Game Awards. Remember when he was drunk?
yep, yep.
Yeah.
Look, you know, he's always been a fan favorite, and he's always been a favorite of Jeff Keighley's. And a lot of his games, I love his games because they are what I want more of: couch co-op, and that, not just like the Mario Party style couch co-op, have a bit of fun and bit of a joke, or Mario Kart. It's the, can we play something together? This is why I love Lego games. I know it sounds strange, but I love the Lego games because you can always couch co-op those games together. I play it with the wife, I play it with the son, and we just have a blast playing things together. And Joseph's games are mad fun because there's just little quirks and twists, and he sets them up so well. And It Takes Two was brilliant. I love that game. But Split Fiction, the premise and the style of it is interesting. Is high fantasy versus sci-fi, and the world can flip depending on who's got control. There's the undertone with the dragons and their development as part of the skill tree, it seems. And then you've got, like you said, their authors, and they get their stories effectively stolen. So there's this undertone of big corporate greed, bad guy, which I think is quite a funny undertone to have from Joseph, because everyone knows what his thoughts are on the big corporations, even though EA publishes his stuff. It's just fun. I love what he does. He has so much fun. He's got so much passion for that team, and yeah, he's a breath of fresh air. Especially he gets up there on stage. They announced him out, and I was like, all right, let's see how many words. If it's less than 20 words before he starts swearing, or if he's going to mention F the Oscars or something like that. And there's a bingo card of what is he going to do. So I thought it was great, and it was the first part of the night where some energy lifted the room. In the whole up
I
to
definitely
that
agree with
point,
that.
it was very corporate, and then he got up there and it lifted.
Hey man, they need to take some lessons, man. He got us excited.
Yeah, he did. And up until that point, there was hardly any award, except for the pre-show. There was hardly any awards announced to that point where someone actually got up there and had excitement. And yeah, it was great. It was great.
All right, so this time, hopefully, I can get everybody to say it with me in the chat. Let Game Logic host. So BRAP had to step away again. So we'll move on to the next game that I have in the rundown, Steel Hunters. And I do want to try and cover 2 games this time before BRAP gets back instead of one. And my comment on Split Fiction is I'm at a 4 out of 6 on the game. I don't play those games because I don't have friends. But I'm always excited when I see them coming. Right, there are great things from my perspective that hit and land on the landscape of gaming and are great for the industry. This next game though is one that I know I can't remember Swagbag. I think Swagbag, you've played this game, so look, just hold some space for me and let me have my reaction to it before you comment on what you think about the game, because this game dropped and is available. I guess you go get it directly from wargaming.net, because I went and looked for it on Steam, and it is not in early access on Steam. But Steel Hunters was a game whose trailer gave off a ton of Transformers vibes. And actually, quite frankly, I think if you weren't listening close, I think I'm right. I could be wrong. I think I'm right. If you weren't listening closely, you heard one of the mech characters talking that sounded very much like Optimus Prime. But then when I leaned in close and really tore it apart, it was not Peter Cullen, I'm pretty sure. But this is a new mech game from wargaming.net, which to me is kind of really strange. I'm a big World of Warships, World of Tanks stan, and I'm like, this game doesn't seem to fit into that mold in terms of gameplay mechanics and what these guys have done before quite as natively as I would think, although they are kind of combat vehicular specialists, so I guess they've figured it out. The one thing that was kind of interesting to me is all of the mechs that I saw in the game were at radically different scale. You saw everything down to like a Beast Wars Dinobots kind of characters that were along the lines of like a Horizon Zero Dawn kind of model, up to bipedal, stand upright, typical kind of Autobot Transformer type physical form factor robots. So I'm not quite exactly sure how this game works in scales and how it's oriented. I haven't had a chance to check it out, but I do absolutely have this on my list to go play some itself. For me, this is a 5 out of my 6-point scale, just because, like I said, I do have a bit of a smidge of a doubt of exactly how it works, but I'm super excited. I was super excited to see this game show up. I'm suspecting and assuming that Falky, you and Enate were not as high as I was on this one.
No, unfortunately, I'm not a 5 out of 6. I'm probably this looks good, unlikely to ever play it. I am just, with the push for time, it looks interesting as hell. But I've never really had the opportunity to jump in, mainly because I find myself strapped for time and I can never progress fast enough, and I get my ass handed to me all the time. So, but the premise looks interesting. Just note that the list I'm looking at notes that it's players can join the PC beta test play test on Steam. So I don't know how Steam does that piece, but and this is one of those PC only things I was mentioning at the start of the show. It looks phenomenal when you consider who made it, and if this is the next step in the evolution of that studio, so wargaming.net, .net, if it's the next evolution in their step forward, I mean, well, it's pretty good. But yeah, unfortunately, I'd probably refrain from rating because it's as great as it looks. I'm just with everything else, I'm probably not going to get to it, but it looks good.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say it looks good. I was watching the trailer while Logic was talking, just so I could refresh my memory, because there was quite a few mech games that got shown. Uh, that's what I was telling Deathloid in the chat. He was mixing Steel Hunters up with Mecha Breaker or whatever it's called, or Mecha Break, something like that, because that is the game that looks like Zone of the Enders, but this game does not. But yeah, it looks really good. I agree with you there, Falky. Like, it looks really good. It just depends on the I don't know how they have it set up. Like you said, I know World of Warships and stuff. I know how those are set up. Those are pretty much pure PvP, and I'm just not anymore.
So both of those games have very robust PvE
do they?
modes as well. Yeah, I mean they when the game launches, typically the PvE mode is like really stingy in terms of how it lends to your progress, but it definitely is robust enough for you to learn the game mechanics and get those under your belt. And then you do have to progress up to a certain point before it's really worth. No, you don't have to progress up to a certain point. You have to progress up to a certain point to be able to earn certain rewards and have access to like certain ships and be able to play certain modes. But once you get past the intro, you can immediately go into PvP. At least on World of Warships, like the availability of PvP, again, depending on how they evolve the game over time. Like originally, you couldn't get PvP wouldn't have bots, or at least the cycle time on your wait to get into a match would be very stingy before they put bots in. Now, like your wait time is only like 2 minutes, and then they just say, "F it, we'll just fill the rest of it with bots." So, I mean, make no mistake, it's a wargaming.net game. You are going to pay. You are not going to play this game free to play, or else you're going to be sitting stewing in a toilet bowl ring, like going nowhere. So there's that. But you can definitely get in and access the game and play it, and then make a decision about whether or not you want to participate right in the money side of it.
Yeah, I'll probably, like I said, I'll probably give it a shot at least. I'm sure this is something that, like, I have like a couple separate Discords in my brother's Discord. They're all like, "Hey, this new game came out. Let's all jump in 6 deep." Like, like this will probably be one of those games. So yeah, I'll probably jump in there and give it a shot. But yeah, it's probably like a 3 or 4. Just like I said, it looks phenomenal. But like I just had this conversation when we were watching the show, and I was like, some of the game I'm playing Indiana Jones right now, and I was like, looking good is starting to be like the bare minimum these days. Like, I can't just, dang, that looks good, because now that's pretty much everything. So now it's like, okay, I need you to bring the sauce, to go with it.
Okay, so I'm going to rattle a few off, and let me know if you guys have any. Like, I don't personally need to have a long conversation about Black Frost, the Long Dark 2. Did you guys have anything specific you wanted to cover on that one?
No, I just thought it looked cool, but yeah, it's way out, and I just thought it looked pretty dope.
Okay, let's go on to the next kind of big one that I thought, Borderlands 4. So first of all, I personally felt like the entire time, like Randy Pitchford was out on stage, that was cringe.
It was cringe.
he is who he is. I was actually kind of surprised that there was as much support energy in the room for him. I kind of expected him to get kind of slagged.
Yeah, same.
But look, Borderlands 4 was put out there. Any thoughts from you guys?
Yeah.
I've got thoughts, but they're not necessarily restricted to just that game. So Nate, do you want to go first?
Yeah. I mean, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big Borderlands fan. I don't hide it at all. I love Borderlands. I hated the pre-sequel. Like, That was terrible. I love the gameplay in 3. Hated the antagonists, the villains. They were terrible. But the gameplay was still solid and it was still there. So from what I've seen, it looks. I mean, it looks all the bits of Borderlands is supposed to be. I mean, we got to get into anyone who plays it. You know, you got to get into the detail to really see. Hey, how are the guns? What have they? What are the elements they've added? You know, how do each of these characters play? Right? What are their 3 different archetypes that they usually have, and how do they synergize? And you got to get into the detail to really see, like, man, am I really gonna love this, or am I gonna be like, I like that one character? So I think that remains to be seen. So I'm excited based on what I saw. I really wanted to at least see the game, especially because they did a cool thing recently where one of their fans is really sick, and he got to go play the game at the studio directly. So that was dope, and he was really excited after playing it. And he's apparently a really big, long-time fan. So he was like, "Man, I loved every bit of it." So that gave me some hope. And yeah, like I said, the look and everything looked really good. It looks as up to snuff as it can be without them destroying the look that it goes for. Like like they can't go crazy realistic or something. So I did see some people kind of like, well, does that look better or does it? And I was like, well, they can't go too far that it's no longer Borderlands. So yeah, I liked what I saw. I'm not gonna say I'm maxed out. I'm not the 6 out of 6. I'm probably 5. I'm a 5 because, like I said, I'm a big fan.
So my quick comments before I turn the mic over to you, Falky. Yeah, it's more Borderlands, but like you said, Nate, I love Borderlands, like the gameplay, the mechanics, the storytelling. So I'm fine with it. I don't need it to be. I don't need it to be some revolutionary, like big, huge swerve. I'm not going to gig the game for being more Borderlands. I love it. Thing that should be noted and will be interesting. This will be the first Borderlands published while now being owned and acquired by Take-Two. So I don't know that that's going to necessarily change anything, but but there we are. So yeah, I'm super excited about this one. I am probably somewhere between a 5 or 6. I'm probably at a 6. I'm probably at a 6 on this one. But that's
Okay.
just me. It's a thing that's in my wheelhouse. I don't expect
Yeah.
everybody else to be just as excited, but it's going to do what it needs to do for me. I'm probably there day one. I'm not going to be rah-rah and pom-pomming it out in the streets. I'm just going to say this is the thing that I play because it's the thing that I like. Go ahead, Falcon.
So this is a big there's a lot riding on this game, we'll put it that way. And it looks like it's actually gotten the tune-up of oversight that it needed with Gearbox being purchased by Take-Two. And sort of the direction, the investment in the direction to say, you'll go down this pathway. Because when it was still owned by Embracer Group, and you saw some of the early build stuff for this, it was dodgy, it was rough, it was not going to be great. And lucky Gearbox got sold by Embracer Group because this game damn near got cancelled. It was lucky to survive the last round of axings. It was right down the bottom of that list. So the what we got to see has obviously got a good sprinkling of the discipline that Take-Two has over there from their senior production teams, and it is really important in the future for Take-Two that this game goes all right, because it is one of very few games standing between now and GTA 6 that they are going to release.
Absolutely.
The whole reason that they bought Gearbox was so they had stuff to release outside of their usual 2K bits and pieces. Having said that, I've only played a couple of the Borderlands games. I suck at first-person shooters. I didn't mind the art style of the older ones, Borderlands 2 and 3. The original Borderlands, a bit rusty out. I didn't get to it when it first came out, and it's probably a bit rough for me to play it when I did try to play it a couple of years ago. I did not like Tiny Tina's Wonderland at all. I thought it was way
that's
too
perfectly fair. I
cheesy.
hated Tiny Tina, so you're not alone.
Way too cheesy. Way too over the top rubbish. And then there's other people who absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I just could not stand the Hollywood cheese, if you want to call it that. That was
So
carried
per
on.
example, to what you're saying about that, so Tiny Tina is what happens when that team tries to be funny. Borderlands is usually what happens when they are funny. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. So I'm probably a 3. Piques my interest. I suck at first person shooters. I'm curious, but they do have in the mainline stories, so not the Handsome Jack spin-off stuff, but in the mainline Borderlands games, they tend to have an interesting story that I get hooked in. So we'll see how it comes out. It's not going to be a day one for me, but we'll see what a few other people that I trust their reviews on, and if they suggest it, then I'll probably have a crack at it.
No doubt.
All right, Brad, we're probably up to Splitgate 2.
Not interested.
Yeah,
No, just-
yeah. I mean, obviously, this is a thing that Slow-Mo is a big fan of. So I didn't play Splitgate 1. Just when I thought I might be interested in it was when they kind of mentioned they were dropping support for it in order to move on to Splitgate 2. I'll keep my eye on Splitgate 2. It is probably not a pool that I'm going to get into until I see that it's gained some traction. It's just my approach to live service games. With the exception of X Defiant, I'm just not one of those people who shows up like in the first wave. I wait to see how everybody else is taking to it before I decide I'm going to invest my time in it.
That is an extremely scary proposition if you are the developer or the publisher. Hearing that, and that should make some people quake.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've written up a very long market analysis this week, Falky. I don't know if you're on Blue Sky, but I need to share that with you about my assessment of where the live service market is and the cautionary tale that people should be taking with regards to it.
I just actually got asked that question 5 minutes ago by somebody else. So I'm not on Blue Sky at the moment because the risk of me lasting maybe 10 minutes before I call someone I'm going to fuckwit and get banned permanently is very real. And I just haven't got the time to go through a setup to get banned in the first day.
It seems to actually be a more respectable vibe over there for now. And anybody that I see coming over there that I know is going crumb side, I just immediately block. I'm not worried about cred in the rap game like people are worried about on Twitter. And not
it's definitely much better. It's the conversation is definitely much better on Blue Sky for now, at least. So we'll see.
So, you need anything to mention on Splitgate 2, or can we go ahead and move on to the next banger?
Me and you were the same thing. Like, I saw Slow-Mo playing it to death, a couple of the other homies, and then right as I was like, maybe it died. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm the same boat. I'm wait and see.
So the next thing that was definitely bonga was Virtua Fighter. Sega was banging on all cylinders. Oh, did we skip one?
Sega was not playing.
Mecha Break. Sorry.
Hey, Rick.
Skip it. The next one in line was Mecha Break, but
that game's out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not. Yeah. Hey, real quick, gentlemen. I have 10 minutes left. I have to wrap up because something's come up here. I got to do some stuff here at the 11th hour before. It has to do with my son's basketball game tomorrow, which I'm one of the coaches. So,
we can speed run it. Let's do it.
Yeah, so we speed run it. Do you guys want to go over games that you're looking forward to? How do you guys want to do this? I leave it up to you guys.
Top
do
three.
a speed round.
I'll just call out anything that I'm a 6 on 6 on. Virtua Fighter, I'm a 6 on 6 on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, actually, I was actually I'm not a Virtua Fighter fan anymore, but I thought that was a pretty big announcement by Sega. I think it's cool to bring it back. Yeah.
I'm not a fan anymore, but maybe I will be. Again, I used to be a long time ago. But yeah, it was cool to see it there. But Project Century is what did it for me when they announced that right after.
Project Century.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. I will play anything from Ryu Gagatoku Studios.
Yeah, RGG is awesome. Yep. They're on top of their game.
RGG and Altus are the kings over at Sega. And they're the third one. So Sega, Capcom, and Bandai Namco absolutely owned the Game Awards this year. They smashed everything they put up. That they're associated with. They smashed it. I suck at fighting games, but this one, different studio making it. I'm like, oh man, if this feels and plays anything like the Like a Dragon stuff, I'll be there. I will be there and have a crack.
I am not high personally on Turok Origins. I'll call myself a 4 out of 6 on it, but I think it's hugely significant and a good thing for the industry. Anybody else high on this one, Turok Origins?
Nah,
No.
not me.
No.
But yeah, again, like you said, significant announcement. Like I like my mouth dropped on that one because I definitely was not expecting Turok to show up. Like I had to explain to some people in the chat with us what that even was. Like so, yeah, that's how long it's been.
Yeah, I mean that's a blast from the past, right? I mean, no
Yeah,
one
it
was
is.
expecting Turok. I do like that Capcom's kind of dipping in the bag. They have been, I think, for some time, and some of their older IPs bringing them back.
Facts. You mentioned it
Yeah, so
earlier before you left, Onimusha. Like
yeah,
I
I
did
mean,
not.
Onimusha was the
Yeah, I yelled in the chat
holy,
when that showed up. That's
yeah, like
that. I believe
Onimusha was the holy shit moment for me. I was like,
that.
what? Like they're bringing
Yeah,
Onimusha back?
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's interesting that Saber's making Turok, but they're a little bit, say, hit and miss. They got the right oversight. It should be okay. And again, yeah, like, echo the same thoughts. It's great for the industry that they're going back to old IP and having a, and that was again another flavor of the Game Awards. We've gone back to old IP and got a new version or something new involved in it. So
Okay, then there was Helldivers 2 DLC, Warframe, Pal World expansion or extra
oh,
content.
sorry. Project Century. I'm a 6 out of 6 for that one. That one, I am there all over it, like fat kid on a cake. I am there.
Nice.
And I'll
Wuthering
lick my fingers.
Wuthering Waves, and then Onimusha. I think we've talked about that a little bit. I'm a 6 of 6 on that one. First Berserker.
Yeah, I like the look of this one.
I thought it looked interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably a 4 out of 6 on that one. Sorry to hijack your score theme, but keep it easy. It's
I
probably
mean, it makes it quick and easy. So yeah, I'm probably about a 4 out of 6. I'm not the biggest Souls-like fan. It depends on how Souls-like it is. If it's more, Stellar Blade, yeah, sure. If it's more Demon Souls, I don't know. And then yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yep.
Okay. Dying Light the Beast. Anybody?
It looked good.
Yeah,
But I might be
interesting.
dying lighted out at this point. So
Squid Game Unleashed.
absolutely not.
No, I'm not interested.
I wasn't interested, but I thought it was a bit, I would almost say a little too much on the nose, the commentary about executives and CEOs after United Health.
I did see that.
Oh yeah, that was a little. Ooh,
Yeah, I think I felt like maybe they scripted that like before that murder happened, and then I was like,
Probably.
they just didn't think about taking it out. It was funny.
I didn't go much on the announcement style, the process, and all the rest of it. It seemed like it was that issue is one issue aside. Second issue I agree with that. The second issue is the amount of bloat, we'll put it that way, involved in that announcement for a mobile tie-in game.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay.
I'm the same as earlier. It's a 1 out of 6, but I'm taking a point off.
Okay. Stage Fright was next. Game of Thrones King's Road.
Stage Fright for me is probably 4. Like I thought it was interesting. Yeah, I'm a big fan of co-op lately, so yeah.
Okay. Then the next big one, which I think I walked out of the room and missed this one, Double Dragon Revive.
I mean, like, I want to be excited because, like, we all remember playing Double Dragon back in the day, but, like, I'm like, I don't know anymore. So, yeah, we'll see.
It's be good for the handhelds, I think.
Yeah. I think it'd be great for the handhelds. Yeah, nice nostalgia piece.
Mm.
The Game of Thrones one that was in there, where was it? It was an open world mobile game or something that's in there. It looked interesting, but I'm not keen to play it on mobile. Bring it on the console or PC or something,
They should have went less mobile and more, more the last Lord of the Rings type games. I can't remember what they call it. Shadow of War. Yeah, they should have went more of that, and then I would have been all in.
Yeah, I was like interested in a little peaked to more Game of Thrones, Jon Snow, but then like you slap a mobile label on it, it like just nosedives for me.
Dove.
Screamer was announced. I just don't know what that game is yet.
What was it?
Screamer, which is kind of a stylistic racing game. So of course, again, that puts it directly in my wheelhouse. But I just don't know what it is.
They didn't really show anything. It was like two cars racing for like a hot second and then nothing.
Right. So then we had Last of Us Part 2 comes to PC. I'll be there for that, obviously. Den of Wolves. Was this on anybody's radar after the trailer?
Nah.
No,
And
No.
I called it Payday Cyberpunk and looked out the window.
Okay. Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Big announcement to me from Sega. Again, kind of piling on to how hard they went in this trailer.
Yeah.
Not something that I'm going to personally play. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna personally play it, but I thought it was a big announcement. Back to the old school, bringing back Sonic Racing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm excited. Keen, the young fella saw it, and he's anything to do with Sonic, and he's all over it. So that'll be getting purchased and played.
Okay. Then Aaron Paul and Laura Bailey came out. They're both married, but strangely seemed like there was some kind of chemistry thing going on there. But Dispatch, which is a very interesting game that is about it's what's the word that I'm looking for? It's deconstructionist superhero fiction about like the dispatch people who send superheroes out to different calls. So I'm interested in this one and will definitely be looking forward to playing it. Need to see exactly what more of the mechanics and framework are, but I'm going to peg this one at a 5 of 6 pending seeing more. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm probably a 4 out of 6. Laura Bailey being attached to it gets my interest really quickly. But it's a point and click, so that's and they're the sort of games I prefer to play on PC rather than console.
Yeah.
Lucky it's only coming to Steam, and it's again another one of those PC only games coming through. We'll see how it pops out. Probably wait and see if a few other people play it, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind the old point and click. It's a good way to just sort of put a game in there. Hopefully, it's a shorter game, not a long game, but the game play cycle, like the cycle through the bits and pieces, needs to be not too repetitive. Otherwise, I'll get bored with it too quick. So we'll see how we go. 4 out of 6. Give it a 4 out of 6.
We'll play good on Steam Deck too, as you mentioned. Brap, you want to take that super chat?
Yeah, $5 super chat. Twisted Sin says, fun fact, Screamer's an old IP from the 90s for the PC, so I was shocked to see this come back since I played 1 and 2 back in the day.
Oh yeah, that's the anime style one, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, I completely glossed over when you're talking about that. That's one that I'm probably a 5 out of 6 on. That the art style, the game style, the synopsis that's written up on the blog posts and whatnot about that game got me curious, and it looks pretty cool. So.
All right, very cool. Next was another big announcement, the Okami sequel. I am probably a little more excited for this than I think I mentioned on the last game. Probably not something that I'm going to directly play. Definitely not right off the bat. But again, I feel like this is even more significant than the Turok announcement in a good thing for the industry. Anybody else high on this one?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm interested. I mean, this is again, I don't know who said it just a couple of minutes ago. Capcom, Sega, maybe From. I think someone mentioned maybe From. Was it you, Falky?
Namco and
I mean, I think they really they I don't want to say stole the show, but they really knocked it out of the park here. I think Capcom and Sega in particular. And then this is Hideki Kamiya coming back to Capcom now. And he's the head of this particular game. So anytime I see Hideki Kamiya attached to a game, it always raises eyebrows, gets my attention. So this one's on my radar.
Yeah, same. I mean, we're with Logic. I'm not sure I'll personally play it because I played the other Okami, but I was never really a big fan. But I have tons of friends that are massive fans. Like, we were using the 6 out of 6 thing. They're probably a 40 out of 6. Like, I expected them to flip out their chairs when this got the irony. I did give my one friend crap though, because he's the biggest Okami fan on the planet, and he was the last person to realize what game it was. Like, we were like, really? The one moment you had one job and you didn't realize it was the game. Like, oh my god. So yeah, but no, big significance. I think great to see them, like you said, them dipping back into the bag of all these bringing back all these old IPs that we've been begging for years. So yeah, I think it's going to be big.
All right, so let's go on to the climax, to the big flourish, to the 1812 overture, the magnum opus. Naughty Dog's new game revealed, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. I will start with the slander and controversy. So first of all, I think from a business perspective, I I I like that this was announced because obviously we have a ton of people who have gone on and on and on in this generation that Naughty Dog's not doing anything. They're just doing remakes. They're working on canceled, multiplayer, blah blah blah. When obviously to take on a game of this scope, you obviously I mean, and the comment was made that this game has been being worked on since 2020. So obviously to take on a game of this scope, you had some chunk of developers working on early advanced design and implementation, probably along the lines of a 30 plus member team. And then as they built out that architecture and scaffolding, you then started swerving more and more developers towards it. So it is quite clear that there's been parallel development going on at that studio of multiple projects. And now this one is hitting the drum beat
say
for
logic.
Go Big. So
you don't say that studios could do that. I mean, that's
so we could put all that craziness back in the bag. I'm interested in this game. I'm glad it was announced. I love Naughty Dog's pedigree. I love the Uncharted series more than anything. But before people rah and pom pom this, I'm going to say today, right now, this is Starfield, which means we don't know anything about what this game is about. Same thing with Starfield. People went cliff jumping off, the edge of Hawaii, diving into the Pacific Ocean, running on and on at the mouth about what Starfield was before anything about that game was even known. So that's where I am on this. Excited, interesting. We'll keep an eye on it, but obviously need to hear more about what the plan is.
Yeah, I gotta say, I turn on the sound here because the intro music here gave me a little bit of Mass Effect vibes when you would load into Mass Effect.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying this is going to be Mass Effect. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the music gave me a little bit of Mass Effect vibes.
As it should. It sounds exactly like it.
Yeah, no, it does. It really does. I mean, there's some look, there's a guy from there's two actors there. One guy from Breaking Bad, I forget the other actor that's there, who I believe she's going to take a bounty on. But this game, look, it's Naughty Dog, so like we discussed with CD Projekt Red, that pedigree, right? Mm-hmm. This game, and actually the person she's talking to kind of gave me, again, a little bit of Mass Effect vibes. The elusive man smoking a cigarette, she's not drinking whiskey or bourbon or whatever the elusive man was drinking in Mass Effect, but gave me a little bit of that vibe too. I thought it was interesting that she has CRT TVs in her spaceship, and that her spaceship is made by Porsche. So that was interesting. This gave me kind of this little bit of Guardians of the Galaxy vibes to it too. The Pet Shop Boys is played.
Hey, be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful saying that. Look what happened the last time Sony went anywhere near a Guardians.
I know. But this is also Naughty Dog, and so, and then also the protagonist here reminds me of Jax a little bit from, again, Mass Effect 2, which is kind of funny when I hear people talking about woke characters. I'm like, you guys clearly never played Mass Effect or Mass Effect 2 with Jax. So this voice actress who's playing the person she's speaking to, who's booking her work, she sounds very familiar. I don't know who that is, but this has piqued my interest. Look, I've said this: anything sci-fi, it's going to grab my attention. I said the same thing about Starfield. Again, this is I understand the pedigree of Naughty Dog. I definitely need to see more. Definitely want to see more. The game looks interesting. Obviously, I hope it turns out well. It's Naughty Dog, and considering the pedigree here, but this game looks it's got a little bit of style to it too, which so we'll see. We'll see what happens. I like the Sony here. You see Sony, and you see like the disc, and she's going to play Pet Shop Boys here, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, the attention to detail here is incredible.
I was just about to say that.
Naughty Dog is phenomenal at that.
You see the Adidas, the brand placement there. So we're seeing brand placement in this game. Porsche.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting because we were talking about that, and I was like, I've never really seen PlayStation specifically go out of their way to have like brand placement like that, like Porsche, the Adidas, and it's official because I analyzed this trailer to death. But if you pause it when the steering wheel comes out, it actually has the Porsche symbol. It's for real. It's just so much, man. But if it's any consolation to understand how big it is for us, me and Priscilla were listening to the song from the trailer on the way home while we were driving home. So yeah, it's a big deal, and we're big sci-fi fans. So this is just speaking to
My
us on
God,
so many different levels. And Naughty Dog is her favorite dev.
I don't know
So
why. Yeah, I don't know why I got like a little bit of 80s sci-fi vibes from it, like 80s movies, like
There's
yeah,
The
reasons.
Last Starfighter.
yeah.
Genuine question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not taking a crack at anyone. Has anyone actually gone to the Naughty Dog blog post and read what the synopsis is for this yet? Just on the panel.
No,
Yeah,
I've not. No, I've not.
Go
No.
and read
I
it.
read it.
No.
Because the premise in this is in the blog post, and I'm paraphrasing. The premise is, what if space exploration was far more advanced than what it actually was by 1986? That's why we've got this.
That's why I get the 80s,
vibe
the 80s
to it.
sci-fi vibe. Yeah.
It's like if things were far more advanced in back then, 40 something years, nearly 40 years ago, this is what we think it might have been like, knowing what we know now. And that's where you get this Akira vibe or this other, stuff coming through.
Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop, and I love Cowboy Bebop. I think
Did you say Akira? Because actually that is what I've heard, that Akira and
Yeah.
Cowboy Bebop were inspirations for this game.
Yeah,
I don't see the Akira thing. Maybe with the red jacket, if you think about who the make the character in Akira.
There's a video getting around online that's
I'm gonna send
Canada, I think his name was.
Yeah, it's lining up things from the Akira theme with the
I have to
anime with it. Anyway, that's where you get this 80s vibe for, and I am super excited for that. But yeah, so I just wanted to jump in and just, while you brought that point up, that was one of the points I was going to make. Sorry to cut you off, BRAP. Keep going.
No, I just the Cowboy Bebop thing, that makes sense. The Akira thing, I'm not seeing. Well, maybe the red jacket. I mean, the pills. Canada.
Bounty hunter piece, I think, isn't it?
No, because the pills were a gang. I mean, and they in Akira they fought I guess their nemesis were the clowns, from what I remember. But the red jacket would be, because that's what they wore, a red jacket.
The red jacket is definitely the biggest reference. But I sent you the video that shows you like a play-by-play of the references beside each other.
Do you see the printer? Do you see the printer here?
I did.
If you guys caught that.
I did.
Yeah.
So one of the questions in the chat is whether or not we are positive or negative on the brand placement in the game. And look, I mean, there's absolutely no question when there's brand placement in a game, regardless of whether it's malicious or money grubbing, or there's money involved, right? But what I will say is, kind of like some of the things that we've talked about here, there have been great properties across multiple media formats, right? That have had brand placement and strong brand placement. So Blade Runner, the movie, is what kind of this vibes this gives off to me. We've mentioned some other properties. Somebody mentioned Back to the Future. So I'm not worried about this being so bad that there's like some contrivance in the overall game's design. I mean, you look at Naughty Dog and Druckmann and the pedigree and everything that we've heard about how they went from The Last of Us as a video game to The Last of Us as a TV show. And I think meticulous care will be shown for that perspective. I do want to make sure we hit Mafia the Old Country before we sign off. But Brad, do you want to get the super chat?
I think you should get this one, Logic.
Okay, so Bobor Country, who I love. Bobor, you've been a friend of the chat. You have been around my entire time that I've been on BRAP podcast. So I'm very glad to see you back here as a regular. How dare you, Bobor Country with the $5 super chat. How dare you compare Naughty Dog to anything Bethesda? The Sony studio never misses compared to this one with first-person games with terrible gameplay. I think he's throwing shade at Bethesda. Look, it was not a comparison of the studios. It was a comparison of the amount of information that we know about the game, and it was a comparison of the social dynamic in response to the game. So it has nothing to do with the pedigree of either studio. And like there are Bethesda games that I like and Bethesda games that I don't like. I can't remember the last time I played a Naughty Dog game that I didn't like. So I agree with you on the comparison, but my whole point is today, right now, we know nothing about the game in the same way that we knew nothing about Starfield, and I see some of the same social reaction. Notwithstanding what Falky mentioned, you can go to the blog post. Just what I will say in terms of the TGAs and in terms of brands and vendors, I've said this the same thing, so I'm going to keep that same energy. If you want to tell me something about your game, put it in the show. It's not my job to go over to the blog or Google or find out more about it. Sometimes I will do that, but that's not my job. That's up to you to communicate to me what the game is. If it's on a blog post, maybe getting Jeff Keighley to make that comment or putting it at the bottom of your trailer or whatever, and not small print. So don't give me the BS about, you should have read the small print. It's not my job. I had to do that with South of Midnight, and I gigged Xbox for their handling of that because I felt like I shouldn't have been compelled to go over to the stinking Xbox Wire to find out about games that they had announcement trailers in their showcase.
Yeah.
Mafia the old. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Falcon.
No, completely agree. The only thing that to cap off on this before we move to Mafia is to note that Ref Grassetti announced 4 days ago that they were starting a new chapter at Naughty Dog as the, quote, art director for Intergalactic. Worked as the art director on God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok. So I think we're in some pretty safe hands with the roster that they've got over there.
Logic, I kind of want to I know we were moving on from this, but just to double down or reiterate that developing teams can run different projects simultaneously. And it's like, I get it from a fan perspective. You're like, oh my God, what's happening at Naughty Dog? But if you don't understand what happens behind the scenes, you just don't understand. And this is proof that, and we've said this on this show, look, yes, we talk about this, those easy lifts, right? Those things that aren't hard lifts for studios that are going to make them money. They're going to do it. Why? If you've listened to this show, you've listened to Falky talk about what companies love. The things that companies love is making money, and making money without having to lift a finger, right?
Also,
so
yeah, the juice is worth the squeeze.
Exactly. The juice is worth the squeeze. And we find out this game's been in development for 4 years now. So they have been running this behind the scenes. What?
Something's got to pay the bills.
Well, that's the point. I mean, we've been talking about that. Like they're just not sitting idle, not doing anything, because to your point, they have to keep the lights on. They have to keep the lights on.
Now, what's interesting here from a portfolio perspective, what this makes me wonder is now where Sony Santa Monica and Cory Barlog is working on a sci-fi game as well. So just from a portfolio perspective, I wonder where his game lines up in this, and when Intergalactic is going to drop. Last game, I said the last game was the last game, the AT-12 Overture. So whatever you want to call this, Mafia: The Old Country, 6 out of 6. I've been a huge fan of the Mafia series. This one in particular looks even more brutal and way more visceral. I'm also, I was a history major in undergrad, so I have a yen for period pieces. So yeah, I'm super interested to see how this turns out.
I like the Mafia games. I don't know about going back to I forget what the game takes place.
Sicily.
Early 1900s in Sicily.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously that's where the if you're a history buff, you understand the origins of the American mafia. Sicily is where you would trace those roots back, or that history. And so, yeah, I mean, I like history piece. I'm on the fence though, because I like the mafia games, and like the Chicago, New York City, era, that timepiece. But we'll see. I mean, it looks interesting. Definitely looks more visceral, like you said, Logic. So I'd say it's on my radar.
Yeah, 5 out of 6 for me. I am really interested. I don't. Depending on what else comes out at the same time, I might not be day one. So, like, that's why I say 5 out of 6. I am still really excited, and I'm definitely going to play it. It's just it's funny he mentioned the period piece thing, because I'm like, it doesn't bother me in the way that they did it here, because I know how Mafia games play, and I've played I played the original and stuff. So I'm more of a modern. I like the more modern era. So, but yeah, still, I do like you said, I did appreciate how it looks more visceral. I do like that, more the hand-to-hand combat and stuff looks really good. So yeah, I'm interested to see just how they, kind of flesh this out. And I mean, I'm sure the story is going to be great. They always keep it really grounded. I always love how realistic they get with it. Like they really keep it real when it comes to the stories in these games. Like they do not hold back. So yeah, I'm interested.
I am also a 5 out of 6 on this one. A third person, story based. I do enjoy the Mafia series. I like a good story. I love a good origin story. I like close up violence. I like not having it too fast paced. And scene sets. So like timepiece sets and in that open, like you see in the trailer. So you get broken down buildings, rock walls. You're inside an old barn, or you're in an old vehicle, or you're in town, or you're out of town. It seems to be a good dynamic of let's say an Uncharted spread of locations. And if it's sandboxed in those locations and not open world, I'm super keen for it. So yeah.
So before I turn it back over to BRAP for the closeout and the wrap up, I just want to say, chat, now that we know the whole chant, and yes, I did steal it from Kind of Funny Games Daily, but it still applies here. I think it's okay. Now that we know the whole chant, feel free to just let BRAP know. Let him know on Twitter. Let him know on Blue Sky. Mention in the chat when you're here. Just say the words, "Let Game Logic host."
Oh man. and now they're saying it. Nate, that's how Nate's here. Okay, let Logic host. All right. All right. Well, that would require no from slander.
Yeah, it counts me out.
I cannot compromise my ethics on that topic.
Oh my.
Come on, we got to go. You're running late. We're all
I'm
running
late. Yeah, I got some stuff I gotta do in preparation for an early basketball game, which I'm coaching tomorrow. So yeah, I won't. Yeah. So, but no, great conversation as always, gentlemen. And I want to thank everyone in the live chat for hanging out with us for the last 2.5 hours or so. Really appreciate the time. Do me a favor, hit that like button if you haven't done so. Consider subscribing, hit the bell notification, do all those YouTube things. Really means a lot. Support the channel. And, everyone have a great weekend. Enjoy playing video games because that's what it's ultimately all about having fun first and foremost. And, again, want to thank my guest this evening, Nate. Nate, always a pleasure, sir.
Appreciate it, man.
Want to be found?
It was fun. It was fun coming out. Yeah, you can find me at The Real Nate on Blue Sky and Twitter, or tomorrow, every Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on the Otter Players podcast. We'll go into this as well and get into these games, man. Otherwise, you can find me gaming. Peace.
Absolutely. And Falky.
Hello.
The time traveler, the man who's ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate being on. Yeah, been a good chat. I'm still a little surprised how hung up we got on The Witcher, but yeah.
The Witcher was a great conversation.
Yeah, no, it's solid conversation. There's always a great conversation when I'm around friends in this place. Thank you again for having me. Appreciate the time and the invitation. And yeah, find me on Twitter at Forky87. I haven't made it to Blue Sky yet because I'll probably get banned day one, but we will figure it out.
Malky, come on over, man.
We will figure it out. All right. But yeah, thanks for having me. Great chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And no, it's, I'm actually enjoying the Friday night shows, believe it or not. It's nice. It seems to work, I think, better maybe for schedules. But anyhow, Logic, always a pleasure. Thank you for stepping in. I had to step away. Appreciate it. I don't know if you want to be found, but if you do, let everyone know they can find you.
Probably the quickest thing to get on is come join us over on the E2KG Network podcasting channel over on YouTube or on YouTube, where we will be hosting our 9th, I think, annual Gaming Superlative Awards for 2024. So that'll be Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, featuring categories such as New Lease on Life, our best ported game, most disappointing game experience, one of my favorites, the Wretched Hive of Scum and Villainy / game most emblematic of sleazy business category, most likely to be GOTY in most media outlets, and most likely to regret trading or not playing in 2024. Just a smattering of the 14 categories that we will be going through, where all 4 co-hosts have made their picks for those categories, sent them in to the host for the show, and we will be going through them blind nail. So it'll be the first time any of the co-hosts hear any of the other co-host picks and have that discussion for the games that released in 2024. So please join us. 2-night event. So Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and then we'll wrap up the back half of the show for the 14 categories on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time.
All right. Yeah, no, looking forward to that. Should be a great conversation. And you can find me on X, aka Twitter, BRAP_podcasts, and here every week on YouTube. And thank you everyone for watching the show. I need to do a rant. I haven't done a rant in a while. I may do one this weekend, so keep an eye out for that. But thank you again, everyone in the live chat. Please do me a favor again. Hit that like button if you haven't done so, and consider subscribing, hitting the bell notifications so you're alerted when we go live. So we are out of here. We will catch you next time. Thank you again for watching.